Okay, I got the red smoke.
Gun runs north to south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy. West of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Come on with it, baby. Give it to me. I need it. You're cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
We don't do the headset, the cool guy. Like, I don't want to look like.
So I used to do the headsets.
Right.
And it's pretty cool because because it's so close to your ears, it'll like draw you into the conversation.
Yeah.
But it's also, in ways that I have a hard time describing, it's a little bit restrictive too, because you'll feel it tugging on you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, why did we take them off for the first time? Do we have a guest that was wearing like a cowboy hat or something?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You know I don't pay attention.
That is actually one of the truer statements. I'll catch him over there. Sir. It doesn't adjust at all. That's the height you
There's
sit
7 levers on the bottom.
at. I know. I don't know what any of them do. Just move the microphone around for you. No, I forget why we took him off the first time, and it just became comfortable. He keeps it on because he can manage to make sure that the audio levels, like every once in a while, and I use that term lightly. Every once in a while, he'll have like a, "Hey guys, talk a little bit louder."
It's because everybody's pretty good about keeping it close.
I can't even look at
What
it.
about F-bombs? Can we drop?
It's the internet. You can talk however you want to about whatever you want. We can talk about, hypothetically, flags. We can talk about whatever you want, man. It's up to you. First question is easy, though. When is the last time you and I saw each other other than 10 minutes ago?
Dude, fucking 212, motherfucker.
So that was 97. We started
97.
January of
Yep.
97, right?
Dude, and that class, 212, when I got my welcome to Bud's orders, the graduation date was my birthday.
August 15th?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, clouds partying. It's meant to be. I'm going to fucking get through
So
it.
you were forward planning there a little bit. I like the headspace. I appreciate the headspace.
Yes, that was it. But that's when I knew you, and you are changed, my friend.
Well, I was 18. I would hope I'd changed.
Yes, yes. I mean, I remember the first time seeing you and thinking you were someone's kid. I didn't think.
I will post this picture. This one. So I probably floated around 215 now. I didn't get into 200 pounds until my mid-20s.
Wow.
But I was 6 feet tall in buds.
Mm-hmm.
I just was 150 pounds.
Yeah,
So it was more like
you're a beanpole. You're the guy that gets fish the balls out of the gutters, kind of.
Yeah, I will post this picture in this portion of the episode because people don't believe me that I was that size. I wish I could find my driver's license from graduating high school. People would probably report my parents to Child Protective Services for malnourishment. But I couldn't stop eating. I gained weight in buds. Like 5 pounds. I mean, nothing crazy. I didn't come out of there. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all came out of there with really bad hip flexors and a six-pack that was completely useless. But yeah, I'll post this. Yeah. I was tiny, man.
Oh, yeah. And it's crazy that I even have that picture because it's...
Like you said, you're not in it.
I'm not in it. See, there's the guy right in the middle. We'll call him Bingo to preserve his name off the internet. Yeah. And
then this picture from Hell Week. I mean, come on.
But Bingo and I, and this story deserves to be told. Bingo and I were swim buddies. We were like full on. He can swim his ass off. We actually had a little piece of 550 cord we would attach to each other during the swims to pass, and I would push him on the runs.
Side note, not legal.
Not legal. Dude, there were so many things I did. That's the story of my life. It should have an asterisk saying dice, not legal. Yes. Yeah. But I would literally push him on the runs, and together we were going to make it through this fucking program. Yeah. And I did not make it through Hell Week of 212. And
what day did you roll?
Wednesday.
Man, so I went back as an instructor for about 18 months. And I didn't want to, but it was fascinating. I loved it. I didn't love it right away. There's a couple things I discovered there. One, I really like teaching. I really enjoyed the process. I'm not going to say I'm an educator by any stretch.
I wouldn't label my instructors as educators.
Yeah, but also, the whole time I was there, I didn't yell a single time. I would do all the core value speeches or the core value evolutions on Wednesdays, and I would literally...
Were you a proctor?
Even the classes, I wasn't a proctor.
Wow.
It was supposed to... I was in E6 at the time. That's where I picked up 01 through the LDO program. But it was supposed to be E7 and up for the core values. I would I would ask to go do it, and I would just do Q&A. I would let them ask me anything they wanted about the teams. You know what's funny? Mm-hmm. The students had legitimate questions about life as a team guy.
Oh, I believe it.
What do you think about getting married young?
Yeah.
What should we do with our money? What does it actually look like? It's stuff that I wish our instructors later on, right? Like maybe halfway through or something. And that was the thought process I had. I knew I wanted to go back to the teams. Today's episode is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. You know what's weak? Coffee made for people who hit the snooze button and complain about the weather. That is not Black Rifle Coffee. BRCC is veteran-founded, roasted in America, and built for people who put in the work in the gym, on the range, or out in the mountains. If you are looking to stock up for winter or grab a solid gift, go with Waken the Neighbors for high caffeine, Beyond Black for something darker, or Atomic Llama, their seasonal roast with cinnamon and brown sugar that just hits right. This year, BRCC-backed organizations that actually make a difference. Folds of Honor, Hunter 7 Foundation, and more. And as we head into America's 250th birthday, they are doubling down on that mission. So whether you are running a cold morning workout, or sitting in a deer blind, or just trying to survive family holiday chaos, BRCC has your back. Find it at Walmart, your local grocery store, or at blackriflecoffee.com. Black Rifle Coffee, veteran-founded, American-roasted. This is America's coffee. And I had the realization that means I'll be working with these students. So why would I do anything other than try to make them as capable as possible?
I wish you were my instructor.
It was a different time.
Yeah,
our instructors were a different time.
They
man.
were different.
Well, it was also peacetime.
Yes, yes.
And I think the metric there was how hard can we make it, because that was the measuring stick that was available at the time.
That was it. Yeah, it was a different era then.
Yeah.
But
I hope I was different.
Yeah.
I mean, I was.
But lingo, man. Let me finish that story about lingo.
I love the 550. So, and I'll break this down.
All right.
So there's 2 mile ocean swim. What was the longest one? Is it 5.5 nautical miles?
There was that huge swim, yes, but with fins.
Yeah, it's fins, but it's the compound all the way down to Imperial Beach. It's 5.5 nautical miles, right? So I think that puts you at just over 6 statuette. It's the only thing you do in the day. If you can swim, that's great in a pool. But guiding is one of the things that will get students. And so that is, somebody has to lift their head up and navigate, because you're going north up towards the Hotel Del, and then you come back. And you see like these serpentine patterns. Good swimmers will fail because they can't navigate. And the other swim buddy has to stay right next to you. And it's hard to do unless you have a small piece of 550 cord attaching the two of you. Let me just tell you, as an instructor, if you had been caught with that,
oh, I know,
there would have been consequences.
The biggest, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah.
I could not float to save my life. I mean, I was so freaking negative going through buds, and I was practicing drown proofing, practicing. The only part I could not do was the floating part where you just breath holds, float.
Yeah.
And
you would just legitimately
I dolphin kick and go down. If I touch the bottom, I fail. And so I'm practicing. And I'm trying to work out, what am I need to pass this,
Yeah.
And I started bringing little baggies of air, Ziplocs, and seeing how many ounces of air would I take to be able to squeeze this by. And I figured out, it was just, maybe 12 ounces, 16 ounces of air is all I would require. So I took the blood pressure cuff I pulled the bladder out of a blood pressure cuff, and I sewed it into my Speedos, and I put the bulb right up here by my nuts.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I was like,
the move is you got to put an equal one out the back. If you're going to go codpiece, you got to go potato in the back too.
It worked. I passed. Did not get busted for it.
Hold on. So you're telling me when we were doing the drown proofing test? So I'll break this down for people.
Break it down.
This test does not mean you are drown proof, for clarity. This is a test that is all about comfort in the water.
That's right.
And
so
also
freak out subsurface.
And this will take a sec, because the test itself is they tie your feet together. Your arms are tied behind your back. There is a 1-to-1 ratio. There's a student watching you. There's instructors there. There's doctors there. It's bobbing up and down. It's the length of the pool back and forth. It's floating, and then you have to pick your mask up and do a flip, whatever it is. Incrementally. I mean, the first time I think we did this, we actually we had just put our hands behind our back. So even though that might sound horrendous to people, they don't just do that to you on day one. It is a crawl, walk, run philosophy.
It is. But the legend precedes it.
Everything. Life-saving. Like, what is going to happen to us?
Oh, my gosh. Yes. So that was
So you had a blood pressure cuff in your Speedo.
In my Speedo.
Well played, sir.
I mean, yeah, that was my whole buds plan. It's like, figure it out as you go,
That's the only way.
Yeah. And so, darkest time of my life.
Why?
Wednesday, I was had a dislocated shoulder. I was trying to hide going into
How did you
Buds.
dislocate it?
Coming off the cargo net.
Okay.
Came back, felt over-rotated coming down because, you drop toward the last part, free-arming
Yep.
it down the cargo net.
He's talking about an obstacle on the obstacle course, which is another one of the timed
Yeah,
evolutions
20
every
feet
week.
high, right?
Oh, the cargo net?
Cargo net. Is it
Oh, no.
30, 40? How high? How tall is it? It's freaking tall.
I would say 80.
80 feet tall.
It's as tall as the top of the Slide for Life, which is up there.
Yes.
That's four or
stories.
five platforms.
So it's
yeah.
at least 40 feet, yeah.
It's 600 feet.
Can we just Google that real quick?
Yeah, and Michael's not that great.
Oh, okay.
Let me make it up. It's 600 feet. If you fall, you're definitely
600 feet. It's big. So about halfway down, I lose control, over-rotate, and come down my shoulder, and I do what's called an anterior dislocation, and it chips some of the bones. And so I'm trying to hide that. And
So would it stay out, or would it just come out?
it would come out, I'd pop it back in and come out. And each time, super painful, and I'm trying to hide it. And the thing is, I'm not getting my arm up under the boat, and it's not staying up. And the instructors are pulling me back, and I'm hiding. I'm not telling them about it. I don't want to get rolled. I'm not telling them about it. I just need a minute. And they end up pulling me out, checking me out, and while they're checking me out, the class goes. And by that time, the instructor's saying it's too late. You're going to get back to medical and you're going to check. It's over, Dice. And I'm like, and by the time I get back to the Buds compound, I'm disoriented and kind of just know what's going on. I remember
Well, by
instructor,
Wednesday of Hell Week, we've been up for a piece. Was this before they put us down to sleep for a couple hours?
this was
Because that happens on Wednesday.
yes.
A lot of this makes more sense now that I got to see it from the other side. I don't know about you.
No,
I
it was a
remember very
blur.
little.
It is a blur.
Very little, yeah.
Yeah, the timeline's all distorted when this happens. But I do know I was left whoever the instructor was who brought me back from we were like on a meal run, a galley run.
Yeah.
Brought me back. He left me, and then another instructor comes out of the instructor's office, and then says, "You got to ring the bell." And I'm like, "No." He said, "You got to ring the bell." And I was like, "Oh." I went over there, I rang it. I just remember my spirit, soul crushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they have the whole X division, X-Men. You're formerly not a man. It was just a horrible, dark feeling. And bingo, made it through Buds. Made it through Hell Week.
Yeah.
And then we were out after Hell Week. We went out one weekend down in downtown San Diego, and he got a DUI
Oh, he's gone.
with me in the car.
Yeah.
And I remember watching him get it. Now we're both washed out. He takes it harder than me. And he comes up to me drunk one time and says, "Dice, I need you to ask a favor. I want you to break my leg so I won't go to the fleet." And I said, "Dude, you're drunk. Come back and talk to me when you're sober." And
I thought you were going to say which leg.
he comes back and talks to me when he's sober.
But like, listen, you're drunk, so this
drunk.
is a good
Good
time.
time.
Which leg you want?
Perfect. He asked me, and he comes back when he's sober, and he says, "Hey, if you don't do it, I'm ask someone else I don't trust to do it." So I'm thinking, my head's literally going, would a good friend do it, or would a good friend not do it? Like, I'm torn. There's a good argument for each.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I said, "Okay, let's do it." And we threw him up against the side of the rack and put a pillow on it so it wouldn't leave a boot mark, and blew out his leg. I yelled, "Corpsman." They took him away. He ended up having several operations on his leg, walking with a limp. We went out a couple times hanging out together. We met up with some dancers and
Pole dancers, perhaps.
yeah, we just called them dancers, but they
Yeah.
had a lot
It's a
more money than we had.
Cash
Yeah.
business,
Cash
likely.
business.
Small bills, usually.
He fell in love.
I think you mean lust.
Well, they got married, They moved like to Oklahoma, and that was the story of Bingo. I mean,
Are they still together?
as of 20 years ago, yes. That's all. That's the last time we had contact.
So I can say definitively that's the first time I've heard that type of story end that way.
Yes. Oh. So, I mean, but in this place, X-Div, man, it was like a night. People would be actively thinking about suicide.
It's the well of souls. So that is something that I found very interesting when I went back as a student or as an instructor. As a student, you know this. If somebody quits, you might see them in passing for the next 48 to 72 hours, but they actually do a really good job of separating them. And I remember, honestly, 0 people who quit from 212. And I don't mean that negatively.
No,
The
clearly.
path is different
Yeah.
because we were on our trajectory towards, at least we hoped, graduation.
Right.
As an instructor, oh boy, you see these, and you can it's so palpable. You can see it on their face. I took that opportunity to sit and talk with them.
God, you're so much nicer.
Well, let me finish where I'm going with this, and you may change that. I was fast. So I am aware of the Navy spending millions of dollars trying to figure out who makes it through buds. What's your sport background? Did you come from a broken family or a nuclear family? Where did you come from in the U.S.? What are your like millions of dollars? They had the pre-training program, all that stuff. I'm not aware of them doing a single bit of studying as to why people quit. It's like, why don't we look at that to see if we can reverse engineer it? So I started asking these students just what happened. And I got the same answer almost every time. And you were saying that I'm such a nice guy. I got that info so I could use it against the other students. So you're free to change your opinion.
Oh my God, no, man.
You know what the answer was, though?
What was the answer?
View of time.
I can agree with that.
They got overwhelmed. They viewed where they were and how far away their goal was, and all they could see was the distance between the two.
You can't comprehend how far away 6 months is. Yeah.
Or in Hell Week, when an
Yeah.
instructor is standing in front of you and you are doing, they've changed it to surf immersion.
Yes.
In our day, it was surf torture. Do you know what's funny? You know what they didn't change? The evolution. So the evolution is identical, but
Right.
we have picked a vernacular that offends
I
less
totally
people.
get that.
Meanwhile, you're still laying in the ocean. When an instructor in your, let's say you're at Monday, sun's going down, Monday night of Hell Week, which is a rough one. And you've been out there for what feels like a couple hours, and an instructor is just walking down the line talking to you about how long can you be this cold? Because you can't even stand up. I mean, you remember how incredibly painful the hip flexors were when you were that cold and you can't? Yeah.
It's horrible.
And you just have an instructor standing there like, how long can you do this? Because you're just going to be this cold for my entire shift.
Yes.
And then tomorrow, I'm going to come find
Do
you.
this again. Yeah.
So if you can invade their thought process of perspective of time, their likelihood of giving up is astronomical. It exceeds the coldness of the water, the
Yep.
tiredness of Hell Week, the hunger, the irritation,
No,
all
you'll
that
do
stuff.
20 evolutions and it's still Monday night of Hell Week. I mean, yeah.
I mean, instructors are setting their watches to the wrong day and time. I
Yes.
mean, it's
or not knowing when a
choreographed.
run ends. Remember those beach runs?
So
where
those
there's-
are the worst.
Those are the worst.
If you tell me I'm going to run 10 miles, I can wrap my head around that. If you tell me I'm going to run until you say stop, that's how people quit, man.
Dude, like every time we loop back and
Yeah. But those
Yeah.
students, and I tried to do it. I tried to do it with as soft a gloves as possible because I tell you what, there is one emotion that they almost all share with me, and that was regret. Even in the 48 hours after it happened, what you're talking about, people contemplating suicide and just the well of souls, and just like they were already there, they were in it, and so I got the information. But it was high 90th percentile of people.
yes, absolutely. Oh my God.
I can't believe that they didn't give you a medical option.
They did. I went back, before the end of the day, they were like, you're going to medical, your shoulder looked at, and they're like, oh my God, when they see the bone chips and you're injured. And,
So they rolled you.
they rolled me.
Okay. Which is going to pull you out of X Division. You're going to go to PTRR,
Yeah.
which they then changed the name of that too. So I lost track of that vernacular.
Yeah, but they did roll me, and so now all of a sudden they set me up about Balboa. They're looking at me, and they want to do what's called an open Bankart operation on my shoulder, where they cut you top of the shoulder all the way down, pull the head of the humerus out, pull out all the bone chips, put in 2 screws and a couple pins, and sew you back up again. And I'm talking to the doctor, and I'm telling him about my plan to clasp back up again. And
Probably in several days, if not a few weeks.
I know. And the doctor's looking at me going, he said, there's 2 things. One, our goal for you is to get you to put your shirt on by yourself. And 2, no one with this operation has ever made it through training. And I was like, So you're saying I can't?
Yet.
Yeah. And so we go to the operation, and I plug into the Bud's medical right there on the compound, and they have me working in supply. So I'm like, I'm in the facility. I'm seeing all the instructor staff every day. I'm always doing the Bud shuffle, which for those that don't know is from the day you check into Bud's, you're running, and it's this really slow kind of.
Except for 1
running.
week
Yes.
after Hell Week, and you
Yes,
walk really
walk
slowly in tennis shoes.
Yes. And you are, I did that everywhere I went, and I made sure I was in their face that I wanted to come back. And I followed my rehab to the letter, and they gave me a shot. You know, they put me in class 219.
Oh, wow. Whoa. So that's a year later. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So not even that. I mean, it was less than a year, and they're like, we're going to watch you because I passed in high marks on all the qualifications and the pull-ups and all that, and I was raring to go. And I hit the class hard, but I was a freaking prankster all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, going into the next Hell Week, I checked out the instructor's ride to go get it gassed up, and I took it Alec off the base, Alec off the island, went to Best Buy, and I had taken a bunch of rubbers from supply, sold them up in town, and used that money to buy a stereo for the instructor's car, put speakers in the bed, and put a big amp in it. And so they were going to be souped up for Hell Week.
Which, by the way, I'm going to throw a disclaimer. None of this is authorized, but much like the Monday morning room inspections where there's cans of Copenhagen and donuts.
Yes.
Nowhere in any actually in doctrine, you would probably be punished for those things. But if the right instructor comes around the corner and sees those things,
yes,
you're going to have a good day.
Yes.
Or a better day than you were about to have.
So, first night of Hell Week, the instructors at first loved this new. I mean, they had Metallica turned up for Breakout, blah, 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 right in the middle of the apex of all the flash crack, all the shit going on. It goes, and smoke comes out of the ride, and it fried the electrical system and killed their truck.
Now that becomes a problem.
First
for them.
night of Hell Week.
Hey, at least you got a breakout because, as you remember from 212,
yes,
we got nothing.
We got nothing. Yeah,
because I think they hated us. They hated much.
Us. Yeah, there was no breakout. Oh shit, I'd forgotten.
Yeah, remember we were all in the tents, and they just. I was in the farthest tent north. And I heard them yell. We all heard them yelling, but only the southernmost tent got out first, and they're all on the surf. And we're all looking through this little vertical as if, well, are we going to delay it 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually in the end, they were just pissed at us.
Yeah. So because of that, they became pissed at us.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, who's Dice? Oh, you're fuck. No, they brought the pain.
Why'd you want to go down that career path in the first place? What got you interested?
Good question. Growing up, I was the oldest of 8 brothers and sisters, raised in the mountains in Northern California. And I know you're from NorCal, but
You're from Santa Cruz is dead center of the state on the coast.
Yeah, and it has a population. We're talking Horse Creek was my hometown, and it had a population of 89.
Wow.
3 miles from the Oregon border as the crow flies. And it is, there was like one girl within 100 miles my age, and she didn't like me. That wasn't related to me. And so we were all homeschooled too, up in the mountains. So it was like really isolation. I remember running away when I was 16, just to get the hell out of there. But a lot of crazy escapades. I love making booby traps. That was my favorite thing in the world. And I ran away all the way down to San Diego and jumped into junior college down there.
Wow.
And I know. And I had an Indiana Jones hat on, a fedora, and a leather jacket because those are my heroes back then. And so I'm walking around campus, still not getting laid at 16, but in a junior college and just like changing majors a bunch of times. And I hit this EMT course, and that kind of sung to me. I was like, holy shit, I could be a hero with this information.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got on a fire rescue rig back up in the town of Wairika, more back in Northern California when I turned 18. I did that for a couple years. I transferred to Northern Siskiyou Ambulance, and I did the ambulance for a couple years. I loved the idea of someone dialing 911, and they were calling like they're having the worst day of their life, and I'm coming to help them. Yeah. And then, but each one of those jobs, fire rescue, you're like hoping the ambulance gets there, and the ambulance, you're hoping the cops get there because they're all like, the escalation of force. And I was getting ready to transfer over to a sheriff's office I was hiring. And my chief pulls me up and goes, Dice, what are you doing? He said, you're just hopping around every couple of years. And I said, well, what's the top of the food chain? He said, a Navy SEAL. And that was my entire making decision-making matrix. I just said, all
You
right.
had never heard of it till that point.
Never really considered it, never looked at it. He just said it was the hardest, and I said, all right. I went down to the Navy recruiter.
After robust research, it sounds like.
Yeah, no research. And I told the recruiter, I said, I want to be a corpsman on a SEAL team. He said, no problem. Here, sign here. And I kind of scanned it, and I go, what's an EN? He said, don't worry about it. You can reclassify in boot camp. And
even I know what an EN is.
yes, and for those
engineman.
out there, an engineman, which if you look at a ship, a cross-section of a ship, the sunshine's up here in the top decks, and there's no sunshine. It's down here in the engine room at the bottom where it's 130 degrees, double hearing protection.
Yeah.
It's the hellscape of a ship. You call us snipes. You're down there, and you can't reclassify in boot camp. I tried raising my hand, and I asked, can I be another rate? They said, shut up, sit down.
Recruiters are a rare breed.
I'm still looking for that recruiter, yeah.
Yeah. Mine didn't lie to me. It was a woman. She was a mechanic for the Blue Angels. She just didn't know anything about what she was talking about. But again, in 95, 96, when I started talking to recruiters, who did? The students of this era,
Yeah?
there are websites that exist that have almost every evolution of every single day. Physical requirements. You know what though? The attrition rate hasn't changed.
Nope.
Because think about it. If you go back to this being overwhelmed and frustrated, let's say you start off the third week on a Monday and you're having a bad day, guess what you got in your mind? Everything you have to do.
That's right.
It hasn't changed the attrition at all. Because at first I thought these guys are cheating, so therefore they have to be punished because that's what happened to us, and generational trauma needs to be passed downhill generationally. And then I realized, go to town. Research it all. Lay out the entire schedule in your head, because then all I need to do as an instructor is to get you to focus on that. Like, I'll play your game.
Oh, my God.
I'll play your game.
Yeah. Dude, there's a good postscript to our conversation about, making it through 219. You remember that the surgeon I just talked about who said that you couldn't do it?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. When I did graduate, I wanted to show him. Yeah, I'll show him. Trying to tell me what I can't do. And so what I did was I went out to the Coronado Bay Bridge, and I got underneath the bottom of it, and I started going. There's a little catwalk once you get around the little safety shit, and you come out mid-span. And I drop down in the center, and I start busting out a set of pull-ups, and I get a picture hanging on the center underneath the Coronado Bay Bridge mid-span, and send it to him saying, don't you ever, motherfucker, tell someone what they can or can't do.
There are other ways that you could have.
Of communicate? I don't think they would have gotten through to him.
Maybe just take your graduation certificate over.
No.
Oh, my God.
And that's me with hair, by the way. Yeah.
Where's your safety equipment?
Oh, yeah. Totally OSHA sanctioned. Yeah. None. There was a guy there.
You are holding on by fingertips.
Dude, and know what I found out about the bridge?
That this isn't a good idea?
Yes, that it was like a slippery, oily coating over everything from pollution. So as I'm dropping down, I'm like, this is slippery.
You realize this could have been the last photo.
It could. I would have been. Look at the smile on my face. I would have died happy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This is giving me good insight. This is helping me capture good insight.
Says the base jumper. Yeah. Okay.
Semi-retired.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
you can
know.
do base jumping as safely as possible. At least I had a parachute.
Yes.
You had a jacket on.
I did have
Good
it was
luck
a good
with it.
jacket. It
Yeah,
had, like
good luck
lots
with
of
that.
zippers. Did you do any preparation for buds?
I did to the limit of what I could. Legitimately, the woman I talked to, she was fantastic. She was really cool. She came over, I remember, and again, I struggled to remember a lot of details at this age of my life, because we're talking, I was 17 when I actually signed the delayed entry program. I knew what I wanted to do from a very young age.
Guess how old I was.
Let's see, you were probably mid-20s.
Yeah, I was 24.
Yeah, just listening to the path that you were on. Actually, interestingly enough, statistically, somebody with a little life experience has a slightly better likelihood to make it through, because I think that life experience and the just dealing with things not going your way, it helps a little bit.
It hurts a lot more. Yes.
Well, I don't know if you remember Elliot, who was in our class.
Yes.
He was 37.
Dude, he was a stud. Man. He was a good leader.
He was a stud, but I also remember he ate 800 milligram Motrins like a Pez dispenser.
Well, yes.
When I achieved the age of 37, 11 years ago, I thought to myself, what would it take for me to try to go through buds right now, and I realized there's nothing in the world.
Oh my gosh, I know.
So now I look back and I understand why they were literally Skittles to him, just straight 800s, just yeah. So when I went to talk to her, she had I think it was a double-sided little stack of paper, and it might have been 6 pages, and it was things like push-up pyramids, and
you didn't get the official buds warning order.
No. I mean, we're talking like paper thin.
Yeah.
So there was a 24-hour fitness near where we lived. And so I would go before school and I would get on a treadmill and I would run. Mm-hmm. And I would do calisthenic type stuff mostly. But again, dude, I was 150 pounds when I started.
Right.
When we started together with 212, I was legitimately 150 pounds, graduated 155. I mean, I don't know what training I was going to be doing.
Wow.
I played water polo in high school, so that helped with the swimming. Baseball, not helping at all. And I did junior lifeguards for probably a good half a dozen years. And that helped with a little bit stuff like
swimming.
Well, swimming in the boats, being able to look at the surf coming in like, hey, we should probably hold what we got here and we'll charge it after the set comes through.
Understanding sets. I mean, that's a big, you could tell those who are from the middle of the country. And those
they're just, we should paddle. Like,
no. I was always coxing. I was like, let me do it, guys. Come on. We're gonna,
just to be able to recognize. But that was about it, man. I did not.
Dude.
Running, I was able to find out when I was in A school that they wore Bates lights. Mm-hmm. So, because I went to A school on the Dam Neck Navy base over in Virginia Beach for OS. Had no idea what was just up the beach.
Yeah, no idea.
No clue. You'd hear explosions and gunfire.
Gosh.
No clue.
Yep.
Would run a lot on the sand in Bates, but that was about it.
Wow. No, I did a lot of running in those small towns, and it was fully like Rocky. Like, everyone knew I was training, and everyone waving to me. There was a kid, like 2 years before me, who went off and tried, failed, came back and hung himself. So there was this sense of like, dude, you got to make it, man. You got to make it. And I was this. This is where I began to realize addiction was part of my life, even back then. I was coming home from a run. And I was finishing strong. I lived on top of this hill, and I'm charged up the hill. And get to my apartment, and I'm looking out top of the hill. And behind my apartment, there's a dirt road going further up the road. So I just charge up that like hard as I can. And now I'm top of the mountain. I'm looking. I'm breathing heavy, that good mountain air. And behind the top of the mountain, there's a water tower. And I just decide that day to climb around the little security thing, climb the water tower. And I get on top of the water tower. I'm looking over the whole valley. And I'm going, this is awesome. And whatever reason, I climb down the water tower, I go down the dirt road, I go all the way down to my apartment, and I start dragging my couch out the door. And I get it on my shoulders, and I go walking up the dirt road, and I have this rope, and I pull it up on top of the water tower, and I put it up there, and I'm sitting on my couch.
None of this is pre-planned?
None of this is pre-planned. This is
what
just
in the
like
actual
me
fuck is wrong with you?
Sitting on it, and I'm like, this is awesome, I mean, just feel. And I get up, and I go down the dirt road back down to my apartment, and I get her getting my barbecue, and I start pulling off my deck, and I put it on my shoulders, and I carry it up the hill, and I get the rope, and I put it on top of the water tower, and I'm having a steak and a Corona on my couch. The sun is getting low in the valley, and I swear I'm having literally the best fucking day of my life. Like, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. This is all. I mean, just like I could feel just this sense of everything's clicking.
Yeah.
And I can hear this bullhorn going, "You on the water tower." And I look over the edge, and it's like the power company, the utilities company, the sheriff's department, all these cars coming up. Apparently, I've been setting off little pressure sensors on the top of the water tower all day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or either your couch was or your barbecue. Let's not forget the accoutrement
Oh, my God.
that you brought up with you.
I climb down, and I try to, like, guys, I work for the ambulance. Trying to, like, They grab me, handcuff me, put me in the back of the squad car. They send their junior man up to push my shit off the water tower.
Yeah.
Which I'm in the back going, no. Not because I love my couch, but because I had borrowed the barbecue from my brother-in-law, who borrowed it from the chief of police. So,
oh boy,
yeah. I mean, there's so many levels to this. But now they charge me with terrorist tampering with city water supply, which is a felony.
Excessive.
Yes, I agree, because that would get me disqualified from the Navy. All of a sudden, I'm not going to be a Navy SEAL. I'm looking at my life is ruined. I went from like pure bliss to, oh my God, that night. And I had to go to court. I had to get an attorney. I had to show up in court. My mom was there. You know, I'm dressed in a suit. I had a bunch of letters from the community saying I'm a good person to give the judge, try to get him to lessen my charge.
Yeah, anything other than a felony, you'd be okay, right?
Anything. Yeah. And I look across the courtroom, and there, you know how they bring, I don't know if you've ever been to court or how many times you've been in court.
Not for this, no. I mean, I've gone to traffic court.
Not the same thing, my friend. Not the same thing. But there coming in the yellow jumpsuit with handcuffs is my brother. He was being arraigned the same day. He broke into a sheriff's armory and was stealing ammunition. Yeah, sorry, no, I love you, buddy. But yeah. So both of us are in the courtroom, and we're praying the judge gets to our case first because he's gonna fry the second brother for sure. You know, he might give the first brother a break. Yeah. And the judge thank goodness, got to mine first. And he's listening to my attorney, and then he asked me if I had anything to say. And I said, Your Honor, I just screwed up. I want to be a Navy SEAL. I want to serve my country. You know, if you could reduce the charge to anything, I will be grateful. I'll be grateful. And he looks at me. He doesn't even read the letters. He goes, reduced to trespassing, contingent on you joining the Navy.
It's fair.
Fair. I said, thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You know, yes. You know, and he gets to my brother's case, and he asked me anything to say. And the first words out of his mouth is, I want to be a Navy SEAL. I want to join the Navy. Oh, did not get the same sweet deal. No.
Good move, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's reading the field in front of me. He's okay. That actually worked really well.
Yes. Wow. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so you made it through straight through with 219.
Straight through 219. Yep.
What team they send you to?
2. Okay. Which was known as the Gestapo back then.
As was 1.
Yeah. I think Instructor Buchanan had a hand in that. I don't know if you remember him.
I do.
Yep. He did. He like instantly when the truck blew up, set his little sights on me, and he goes, "You're going down." And he was always in my ear all class, and he's like, "I'm gonna fuck with your orders." And 2 was not on my wish list anywhere.
Trust me, the instructors don't have the ability. I put down 2, 4, and 8.
2, 4, and 8. Okay.
Well, I was from Cali.
Right.
I didn't have any experience on the East Coast.
Right.
And I also didn't know anything about it, but I figured that would be new. Wow. I got Team 5.
Okay. That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went Team 2, went out there and got in a platoon and freaking, you know, it's funny that I was no stranger to drinking. You know, I've been drinking hard, but it did seem when I joined the Navy, I kind of leveled up. Like I turned pro in both the paraphernalia, like we have all kinds of drinking apparatus, and how much we could take and what it meant to your character. And I got in a platoon that way I would enjoy my weekends to the utmost. You know, really would.
You weren't unique in that. It was always, now that I look back, and I say this through the lens of now looking back at my younger self. So I think I walked across the quarterdeck at Team 5 because we graduated August 15th, your birthday.
My birthday.
Our entire class went straight to Fort Benning. Horrible, horrible idea. Whoever thought that our entire Buds class, that it was a big class, but that's going to be a problem for the instructors there. And then we all split up. I remember the last day when we graduated there, everybody kind of went. East Coast guys went East Coast, West Coast guys came home. So I probably walked across the quarterdeck in late, we'll call it 98. And actually, no, August 15th, 1998. No, it was 97. I walked across the quarterdeck in 97.
Wow.
And you'd have a Friday monster mash. Run, swim, run.
Run, swim, run.
Mandatory kegger in the grinder.
Yes.
New guys who were all chipping in to buy the kegger, which I was so happy to do that. But the guidance in the action, and again at the time, I absolutely loved it. But I look back now as to the environment that they were setting up for us, the terrain. You'd have the operations officer, hey, we're doing a kegger. New guys, you better be the last people to leave. If anybody gets an alcohol-related incident or a DUI, it's going to be the end of you. I'm like, I drove to work. So you're telling me that I have to stay and finish off this keg on a Friday. How am I going to get home? And meanwhile, the operations officer, you find out years later, had 3 DUIs.
Right.
It set up this. If you had an addictive personality, For me, I've been able to drink super heavy during that time of my life.
Oh yeah.
And put it down. It never got its fingers into me or its hooks into me, but I know people that it did. And I don't know if you could blame the SEAL community, but I think they might have helped apply pressure towards people, whatever direction that they were going. But, first ride in a helicopter, what's the cost? Case of beer.
Case of beer. First anything.
First time shooting a rocket, case of beer. So if you drink and get in trouble, you're done. However, everything positive you do is a case of beer for the first time. First deployment, case of beer.
But it goes a little deeper than that.
Oh, it does.
You drink to indoctrinate, you drink to elevate, you drink to separate, you drink to commemorate. Anything that involves emotion, like real emotion, it's me and some alcohol can solve it. You and I are going to sit down at the bottle and get through this. Even if up to and including, if you and I have a beef and I can't fucking stand you, our supervisor's going to have you and I go get a drink and sort this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's
but meanwhile, an alcohol-related incident is the fastest way out of the teams.
Isn't that crazy? It gives you this
a weird dichotomy.
This universal. Here's a tool that you can use for everything, but if you use it and drive, or you or any incident where you're in trouble and you're under its influence, you're screwed.
Well, and I don't think it's accidental that the vast majority of our friends that ended up taking their lives oftentimes paired that decision with heavy doses of alcohol.
Very much so. And, I've been in this field for over a decade now, and those are the people I end up talking to and the destruction afterwards. But yeah, very much so. That it works until it turns on you. It does. And but my time in the Navy, I freaking let's see. I loved most of my time platoon. There were some times with leadership, as I guess anyone would. At times I was very frustrated. Yeah. And I talk about a lot of that in my book. But like, as you probably know, that first platoon that we probably both went through was during peacetime.
Yeah, I went through two peacetime.
Yeah, and that is a different animal. And I kind of equate it to, say you have a master plumber who's never allowed to touch a pipe. You have all the training and science and knowledge, and you're pumped for it, and you're deprived of that. And plus, with that, the good deals, the good schools are few and far between.
It's all seniority based.
Yes.
Free fall. You're like, five platoons from now, you can go to free fall. It's like, damn.
Yeah. So that gives you. If you don't give me a mission, I'm gonna make one up. I will go out and get into mischief and trouble and make my own adventures. And if you ever go to a concert and you see some fool up in the speakers climbing around, that would be me.
Okay.
Yeah, I was always that kind of guy out on liberty. Let's pull up a manhole cover and explore. Let's go down and see where this goes.
That's not a good idea.
It was at the time. It made a lot of sense. But yeah, and so.
Where'd you go on your first deployment?
I did med cruise.
Okay.
Yeah, and we talked about hitting the Gibraltar for the training there. There were a lot of hoo-yah moments out there in the field.
Yeah.
But it's funny that I would think I would equate when you the addict mind, the alcoholic mind, you can make a lot of cool decisions, but there's also a narrowing of your focus of like what your actions, how it impacts those around you on a broader scale. Meaning
you're not paying attention to
You're
that?
not thinking big picture all the time, especially the more you drink. You get more and more of that tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was beginning to feel like I was like a time bomb. Like I really thought, because there would be so many close calls. And bear in mind, for me, once you go somewhere and you get comfortable and you spend a couple of years, I'll start, bending the rules. And I was dabbling a little blow on the weekends, a little ecstasy, and as were others at the time. And those aren't go well with your military career. They're frowned upon greatly.
I believe they're mentioned a few times in the UCMJ.
UCMJ. And, and I haven't gotten in trouble yet, but it does feel like dude, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I was just smart enough to know that if this track record continues, something's going to happen to me. So,
do you think, based off, we'll obviously get to your professional career and what you do now, do you think that the career field itself selects for people who naturally like to push those boundaries and barriers?
I think so. I think that the obsessive compulsive nature of an addict or alcoholic can lend itself well to being, hyper focused on a particular mission. I'm going to achieve it at all costs.
Over what timeline, though? Because I feel like the longer you extend the timeline, the more that falls apart, especially given their usage of alcohol.
It's true. But you have high functioning alcoholics who can be stuck in that for decades,
Really?
Yeah. I mean, come on, look at your friends base. You have people who've been drinking their whole career.
Hard,
their whole career. And they were successful in terms of they didn't crater their lives, but in terms of what could have they have achieved, like remember, many of team guys, their 80% is everyone else's 120%. They're cruising by, never quite giving.
Generally high performers for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm surprised that there's more and more team guys who don't drink. There's I've heard whole platoons who don't drink for performance reasons.
I've heard same thing, squadrons at Damnick. Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. And at first I didn't believe it, had to investigate myself. But so there is a turning, a shifting of tides.
How do you think that will impact their off-ramp from the teams when it's their time to go? Do you think it'll make it a more gradual or smoother off-ramp? Because I think it's hard enough to leave and lose your identity and maybe lose your sense of purpose. And if you're going to bring addiction along with you in your backpack, that could be pretty heavy.
Well, I mean, if you're an addict alcoholic and, you're going to have a challenge functioning in a platoon that doesn't drink or use. But I think the platoon who's not drinking and not using, they have developed other coping skills, other coping mechanisms. And there are other non-healthy ones besides alcohol out there.
For sure.
Yeah, but they're going to have less challenges when they go to exit the military, because this is what I like to talk about, and people don't realize, the people who love freedom most, people who serve in the military, I don't think they even realize until they actually do it, give up most of their freedoms to serve in the military.
I wasn't aware. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
First Amendment, people think you can do anything you want to. There's some very hard limits on your First Amendment rights if you're a military member.
You're in the military, you give up so many of your rights. And for so long, you just almost, you're not even aware of how bad it is or how much of a sacrifice it is until the day they let you out. And for me, I mean, Andy, if I can describe it for you, it was like I had been in a cage for almost a decade. And when they opened the cage up, and there was a sense of I can do whatever I want. All my freedoms came back to me in one time, and I had zero accountability. And it was like you let this animal out of a cage, and I could just go. I could use how I wanted to use. I could party how I wanted to party. I didn't have anyone to report to. And a lot of people struggle with getting all those freedoms back at one time, and they didn't even realize that they were missing.
Yeah. I also see people struggle because the teams, I describe it as a very task-centric occupation, where most of the time the task is presented to you. You get overseas, like, hey, here's the battle space commander. This is our lines of operation. This is the target deck. Do me a favor, start at the top and work your way down.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, the target deck never gets to zero because it'll just refill. I see a lot of guys struggle. They get out and they have to find their own objective to do outside of that. They're great at accomplishing a task.
Right.
They will struggle in the space where they have to determine what tasks they want to go after, given their own devices, what you're talking about, this ability to go in any direction they want to. It's a very oriented job if you think about it. It's actually, we can accomplish almost anything. But if you, and again, I say this with decades in the rearview mirror, like, man, I didn't have to find too many of those tasks. You get out of the military, you're like, what am I supposed to do today?
No, we need to have a new mission. You need to give me you got to set me on my path. And that is the same, if you don't give me something, I'm going to take up all this time with what I want to drink or I want to use. That's what an addict wants to do. I want to drink how I want to drink. And for a long time, the structure the military provided kind of gave me some guardrails for my drinking. Like I have to turn it off at a certain time.
Yeah, you got to be able to perform.
Yeah.
So you did about a decade?
Well, I count a decade of service, including my law enforcement, my fire rescue and ambulance, 5 years in the teams.
Okay.
I check out, and it was a decision, and this is it's funny. There's a lot of parallels between you and I that I've noted. Ending up in
Handsomeness,
212.
obviously, chiseled features, height. I understand.
Yeah, I get it. Hard bear.
I couldn't grow a beard and goatee, though. I look like Abe Lincoln. I could go undercover at like an Amish butter farm.
Oh,
Michael, you could go undercover at Grindr.
I already am.
Yeah, God. Put the camera on yourself. Show people your haircut.
Oh my God.
This is not my fault.
This is not.
I feel like there was a bowl
Own it.
involved in this.
You got to wear the hair.
I know,
You
it looks
can't let
like
the
it,
hair
right?
wear you. I know. You got to own it.
Yep.
Oh, so I mean, no, a lot of parallels in our path up until this point. I mean, I remember having to think about re-enlistment, and this is pre 9/11. I have this sense that something's going to happen. I'm going to fuck up. I can see the writing on the wall, and I want to party. I want to go out and just let loose. I can feel the military being constricted, and
You wanted that more than to continue with the job.
yeah, like it's the pull of addiction had its hooks on me, and even the idea of maybe I stay in and not drink as much, that was not even on the table, or maybe I stopped doing blow, that wasn't on the table. There was just, it had its hooks in me, and so to me it was like, all right, I'm going to exit the military. Right before the fireworks went off, 9/11. That's the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I punch out, and I give a shot at I gotta make money. So I think I tried selling insurance for a while. I did all these little, put on a suit and tie, and tried to get out there and wheel and deal because I'm drinking heavily now. I'm using a lot of cocaine. I'm using a lot of ecstasy. I am going out there, and all of that's expensive. It's funny. The more you use the more they call it stinking thinking. The more twisted your brain gets and what you think is acceptable. I remember having this little convertible Beamer, and I had gotten behind on the payments, and I had this idea that if I could swerve this under the semi just right, all that would go away. That was, and I'm thinking, well, maybe this is because I'm on cocaine is why I'm having this thought.
Yeah.
And so I let myself sober up. I get clean, and then I said, all right, I can still do that. That still seems like a good idea. And I ride on the 5 freeway out here between Reading, the straight line of 5 goes on forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pull up alongside a semi, time it just for the middle of the night. I had to make sure I was on the phone with someone, so I'd have a witness to the accident. This is how my brain's working. And swerve it right on the tail end and goes under, spin out to the side, end up in the hospital on my back, in and out of doctor's appointments for a year. The semi company has great attorneys, and I end up, just losing the car and having a year's worth of doctor's payments, and didn't solve all my problems. But yeah, I guess it made for a story that was on my way down, and little things like that were happening. 9/11 kicks off, and all of a sudden, I think I'm going to be recalled. I think they're going to call up all the SEALs and bring us back in. And I'm sweating it because I don't want to stop drinking and using, but they're going to call me. What am I going to do? And that's when I realized they have a thing called contracting out there, which is another parallel. But I think you were on the cars I detail at one time.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, so was I. Yeah, I was out there with
Dynacorp. Right?
Dynacorp, yep. Dynacorp, doing the K-Diamond, walking with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that and did the CAT team for a while. And, so now making a bunch of money. Were you private side or were you?
No, I stayed in the military till 2013.
That's right.
So I was not there during the ambush attempt on Karzai.
Right.
Blue Squadron was over there at the time. I had just finished up where I was in the tail end of Green Team. So I went through selection in 2002.
So what year? 2002. Okay, so I came in after you.
Yeah, and we were at High Risk SEER, which stands for Survival, Escape, Resistance, and Evasion. We were up in Washington State. And they basically said, these 2 squadrons, we're going to surge you over because the Blue Squadron guys are coming back. So I was there for like 36 days, something like that. Very, very passive. But we did hand over to Dynacorp. They're the ones who took up the contract.
Gotcha. Yep. And Dynacorp was paying us $1,000 a day to walk, take
That's
care of them.
fantastic.
I know. Tax-free. I mean, that's what I heard tax-free.
Yeah.
Found out that's not entirely true. It's tax-free up to
Tax-free-ish,
Yeah, tax-free up to $65,000, and you still have to file your taxes. I found out.
Yeah. That helps with things sometimes.
Yeah. So
what's
doing that.
interesting? They don't forget.
They don't. About 7 years later, right on par, they will come find you.
Yeah. Hello, sir. We are just here to talk about your reporting.
But here's the parallel lives you and I are living. Like you stayed in the teams, and I went out, and I said I kind of crossed over the dark side. When contracting, deploying in the teams and deploying contracting, I could feel the difference. Like if something happens to me, they're going to send my wife a flag when I'm in the teams. There's going to be the neighbor going to support. There's going to be this person died for their country. Working for a contractor, I'm doing it for the dollar. There's not going to be the same kind of. I could feel the lack of honor in that. I still was over there, for my country. I still wanted to do my part in the sandbox. I still want to get over there and play. And this, I don't know if you remember. I mean, I did the Karzai, and I went over in Iraq and did a couple other contracts. It was crazy days.
Yeah,
I mean the
Depending
Blackwater
on where you were
incident.
and what when they hung,
dude, that's
people from the bridge and burned them. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to say I wasn't part of those guys, but I can understand what they were doing because it was wild, wild west.
Yeah.
In fact, coming from the pre 9/11 SEAL teams, that was like what I thought the teams were going to be like, where black passports, diplomatic immunity, walking on the airports with their guns. I mean, that was the heyday of that contracting era. And doing that back and forth, something began to happen to me because I'm making more money than I've ever made before.
You're still drinking, though?
Still drinking, yeah.
Okay.
And these are short contracts, 3-month, 4-month contracts. And you still get to drink at night on those contracts. So this fit perfectly for an addict.
Okay.
Make a bunch of money, come back to the States. And I'm beginning to feel, gosh, I'll see if I can explain this to you, man. You're in the States, and I'm beginning I hate stoplights because you never thought, you're going in country, out of country. Stoplights, someone pull up next to me, and I begin to get flinch. And so I'm feeling keyed up in the States all the time, so I have to have a couple drinks in me or pop a couple pills so I can drive. And I'm beginning to not like being keyed up in the States, and I know there's nothing to be keyed up about, so I just feel crazy. But I take a contract and go back overseas. There's a reason to be keyed up, and I'm keyed up. I feel sane, so it makes more sense over there.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, and
it's not rational, but it makes sense.
It's like a cure for PTSD where you just re-expose yourself, and then you're aligned. And this started happening back and forth, but I would get more and more effed up in the States, and I remember switching from Coke to crystal meth because it lasts.
What?
Listen, if you don't know, you get a lot more bang for your buck.
I do not know.
You do, and for financial reasons, it's a good call. But,
okay, but talk me through this decision point where you said, Coke is good. Mm-hmm. Meth is great. Well, I mean, there had to be a day where that was the first time that happened.
Oh, yeah. Meth was big out in Cali. It was getting bigger. Someone said, hey, this lasts about 6 to 9 hours, and because Coke only lasts 30. And I'm like, oh, that's way more efficient. So let's go. And it kind of played into, when you do a shot of Jaeger, why is Jaeger fun to shoot?
It's not.
It's not. That's the part that's appealing. That just sucks.
It tastes like what I would assume licking a dorm room carpet.
And you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
It hurts so good. Well, a big fatty rail of blow. You're like, oh God, dude, you do a rail of meth. And
you snort meth. I thought you smoked meth for some
you
reason.
can smoke meth, you can snort it,
Okay.
you can shoot it, however you want to do it.
Okay.
But when you do a rail of meth, you feel like you're going to have a stroke right then and there. Your head's going, doom, doom, doom. I mean, it is like over the top painful.
For
compared to
6 hours, it feels like that?
No, just the first hit. And
Okay.
then- okay.
I don't know.
Oh, well.
Michael and I are learning new stuff here. I
I
assume
know,
Michael's
I know,
not a
we're
meth
going
head,
there.
but
They didn't teach me this in Dare.
I know.
I can't look at his haircut. So, Michael, I'm just going to talk to you like this, all right?
Yeah, I can't either.
Oh,
It's fine.
Yes, this is an informative podcast now.
Okay, so in your mind, the rational decision was economically better, but it lasts longer. Win-win. Fifth gear.
Fifth gear, and you're going. You think you can do anything.
What does that feel like coming down from?
It's about 3 days of just hell and loss of energy and just want to curl up in a ball and be miserable and get more. And so that continues.
Yeah.
And it's like it's an addiction where you feel super productive, but it's like you're over revving and you're peeling out the whole time, so you don't ever get anywhere. Like you will literally look at your wall and you'll like pull a screw out of the wall and sharpen it, put it back in, and think that's better.
I guess in some small way it might be.
Yeah, you'll take apart anything and everything you own, thinking you could fix it or somehow enhance it.
My cop buddies up here say they know the meth houses because for whatever reason they like to disassemble things, and so the yards are full of things completely in disarray.
You can't get them back, but you think you can. Yeah, it's like tons of confidence, and you think you can technically solve. I thought once I had 2 laptops that I could somehow switch screens on them, and it resulted in no laptops.
Yes, indeed. Were you married during this time?
Yes, I was.
What?
I know.
You left this portion of the story out. Where did your wife join this school bus?
Oh, geez. Okay, so my wife, number one, after getting out of SEAL teams, I dated this fine lady for many years, and I thought she put the time in. We got married on the island of Santorini. While I flew in from Afghanistan, she flew out. We got married on a volcano, came back, and that should have been like a warning. It's going to be a tumultuous marriage. That poor girl, I put her through so much hell, and then kind of my bottom for all this, because meth does wear on you, Meth does wear on you. And there's this picture.
Did she know?
She knew I partied. I was hiding the meth use from her because for some reason, even in people who do coke, we don't hang out with the meth people. That's another lower level of disrespect.
Okay.
So I kept that hidden. But it sucks the calories off you. I weighed 130 pounds.
Is it just because you don't want to eat? Does it just kill your appetite?
Kills your appetite. Kills your appetite, and you don't sleep. You'll be up days, 3-4 days at a time.
Your wife didn't notice that?
Oh, well, I wouldn't do it at home. I'd go out, and disappear and come back on benders,
Did she notice that?
She did. She noticed that, and it got so bad. She called one of my platoon buddies to come over and change the locks on my own house to lock me out of my house.
Damn.
Yeah, so it was getting really bad. We also had a son, little Ronan, and at that time, and I was not a good dad. I was not a good dad at all, and it was getting worse. I remember some of the things that led to my bottom. You talk about everyone having a bottom. There was this. I was on a 3-day bender, and remember the H1N1, that swine flu pandemic, our first baby pandemic. Yeah,
I do.
This was during that time, and I was in this house on this bender, and I remember the daycare calling my phone, and when you're that messed up, you don't answer the phone. You just let it go to voicemail and you listen to the message. And the daycare said there's been an exposure of the H1N1, the swine flu, to one of our technicians or someone at the daycare. We're having everyone come up and pick up their kids. Well, to me, twacked out of my mind, I'm like, oh, my son's in trouble. I need to rescue him. Let me get my shit together. Let me just hit the pipe one more time. Let me just get straight. Let me get straight. The phone rings. It's my wife calling. It goes to voicemail. She's saying she's upstate, out of the area. I have to get him. Okay, let me just get myself straight. Let me hit the pipe again. Let me get straight. The phone rings. The daycare. Phone rings. My wife. I'm sitting there for 3 hours trying to get myself out of this room. Getting myself ready and all over the place. And I remember looking at that phone, Andy, and saying, and turning it off.
Yeah.
Pushing it under the bed and just using and realizing my entire life I had been training to be a hero, and my son needs me, and I can't get out of this room. I stopped looking in the mirror after that. I hated that guy. My spirit had snapped. I remember using differently then. Like, even drinking. Like, everyone has a point where you're looking at a bottle of, like, say, vodka, and you have a third of the bottle left, and you're already shithoused, and you shouldn't, but you just say, F it, and you finish the bottle. And just kind of this, I deserve it. And I don't even care what happens. Like that, it's like a passive suicide. Yeah. That's where my addiction went to. Like this self-hate. This guy, I weighed 130 pounds on my frame. I got turned down for contracts. Say, Dice, get your shit together. You look like shit. and I'm like trying to tell everyone I'm just running a lot. And I have a picture of me back then that I keep on my desk today. And I looked like I was a POW, you know, just skin and bones, eyes sunken in, dark. That's what I looked like. And I remember a couple days from then, a couple weeks from then, on another like bender where I'm just going hard, there was 3 a.m. and there's these 2 little boys that were up at 3 a.m. for some reason. They're like 11, 12 years old, blue jeans on, no shirts, with those airsoft guns, you know, little pellets.
Yep.
And they're shooting at each other, and they have horrible weapons handling skills. They're sweeping the shit out of me, and I'm flinching, and I'm getting angry with them. And I say, F this, and I go upstairs, and I pass out in a pile of dirty laundry. And I'm awoke by one of them pointing the pistol at me and kicking me in the leg, saying, hey, freak, a freak. And I roll over, and I look up at the gun, and I look past the gun, and I look into this little boy's eyes. It's like they were shark eyes. It was like there was no innocence left in this little boy. He had seen too much shit. He had seen, you know, all these drinking, using, addict shit. He did not look like a little boy anymore. And I realized in that moment that that's going to be Ronan, my son. My dad died of this disease when I was young. I'm going to die of this disease, and this is going to happen to Ronan. And that, man, that was the one, whatever that was, I got up, I went downstairs, and this is not my house. But back then, you could go into anyone's kitchen, and if you rummaged around through drawers, you would find this big thing called the Yellow Pages, which was our internet. We didn't really have Google this, and I just went through looking for treatment centers, and I put my finger down on the Farley Center, shout out to the Farley Center, and then I went down, checked into treatment. That was me saying, I got to stop this pattern.
What modality of treatment did they use?
I checked in there, and like you said, the 3 days of me coming out of it, not knowing what's going on, hating it, like everyone talking sounded like Charlie Brown's parents, like wah 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 wah. And about the 3rd day, I realized, oh shit, these are those 12-step recovery people. And me being pissed off, like I wanted to leave. Like I've seen these guys. That my parents tried them out. They're kind of cultish, and you know, day 3 goes by. I'm like, oh, day 4 comes, and I'm staring out the window in my little treatment room, not even paying attention to the therapist, just kind of staring. And I remember this thought of like, well, you're fucked either way. What if this shit works? What do you got to lose? Because you hate the guy you became. And it was like my world, you know those little Viewmaster slide things? You pull a lever and the little thing goes. It was like my world went click into one little click. And I was like, well, fuck maybe. And okay, fuck maybe. And I looked at my therapist. His name was Dre Summers, man. And he sees me make eye contact the first time. And he said, where the fuck did you come from? And I said to him, I think I want to be here. And I began to like share a little bit in the group.
Were you still married at the time?
I was still married at the time. Yep, still married at the time. I don't know why my wife was still putting up with me. I mean, I was just finally in treatment, just a mess of a man. Dre, day 3 goes by, day 4, day 5 goes by, day 6 comes, and they take me out of my group and they say, your insurance has deemed we're going to transfer you out of treatment. Your insurance will stop paying, and we're going to step you down to like outpatient treatment. And I'm looking at them saying, wait a minute, I just now wanted to be here. Like literally 2 days ago, I decided to be here, and you're kicking me out. And I remember getting so fucking mad. I mean, I was grabbing my seat and yelling at them, and people are coming in the room trying to calm me down because they gave me hope, and they're taking it away. And I was so angry. They said, if you had $9,000, you can stay. And I was like, who the fuck comes to rehab with $9,000? You don't come here on a winning streak. You know, this is crazy. So they asked if I could borrow from someone, and I called everyone. No one would lend me money. And I did have one card left to play, and I asked them for a 4-hour pass. And my therapist was legitimately worried I was going to go rob a bank. He's like, what are you going to do? I was like, don't worry about it.
Reasonable concern, actually. Now that I think about that, yeah.
And he made me tell him, I said, I have my car. I want to go sell my car. And so he gave me a 4-hour pass, and I went down to CarMax. I'm sure they screwed me over, but they gave me a check that had enough to cover the rehab. And as I'm walking across the CarMax parking lot, I'm realizing I don't have to go back to rehab. Like, this is a good run. And I almost didn't go back. If it wasn't for me looking out that window and saying, maybe this shit will work.
Today's episode is brought to you by AG1, but it is not the traditional product that you've heard me talking about. This is AGZ. AG1 for me was about my morning routine, or is. It's not past tense. I put a lot of thought into my morning routine, the time I'm going to wake up, how I'm going to spend that time. And you see people posting on social media a lot about this rigid and structured morning routine, and I think that's amazing. But how many people, and I put myself in this category, don't put the same amount of effort into the tail end of your day when you need to rest and recover? And I get it. Sleep can be affected by being a parent, a professional, an athlete, how hard you're training, traveling, fill in the blank. We all need to maximize rest as much as possible. AGZ helps your body and mind wind down before bed. It optimizes your sleep quality during the night, and you wake up feeling well-rested without the grogginess. That is the absolute worst. Many people ask me what AG1 tastes like. It's hard to describe. AGZ, kind of the same thing. My flavor profile might be different than others. I'd say it's herby in nature. It's actually quite delicious. There are no artificial flavors, no artificial sweeteners, or added sugar. And you can drink it warm or cold. You could drink it with water or milk, whatever suits your fancy. AGZ is also an excellent source of magnesium. Each serving of AGZ delivers 250 milligrams of highly bioavailable magnesium, providing over half of your daily value. So if you're ready to turn down the stress and focus on your rest, head over to drinkag1.com/clearedhot, and you're going to get a free frother with your first purchase of AGZ. That is drinkag1.com/clearedhot. Back to the show.
I took it straight back to the Farley Center. I didn't even go to the bank. Didn't trust myself with cash. I endorsed the back of the check and slid it in and said, will you guys accept this? And they took an endorsed check as payment.
How long were you there for?
28 days. 28 days. And believe me, once I did that investment, it felt like I took all my poker chips and said, I'm in. And it was a lot like rigor school for me. Did you ever go to rigor school?
No.
Well, for those of you who don't know what rigor school is, it's an Army school, and platoon will probably send one person from the platoon to rigor school where you learn how to pack, repair parachutes. Mm-hmm. And the final exam for that class is you pack and jump your own parachute. It's a pass-fail class. Everyone in that class pays attention. I mean, like no other school. There's no goofing off. Everyone there is like dialed in. In rehab, I was like, if I don't get this, my parachute's not going to open. I'm going to die. And I was just like, I need to get this. And so for 28 days, I went through it, just like whatever. You're going to laugh at this. There was one therapist there who said that I didn't know how to self-soothe as a kid. So what she told me to do is go down to Walmart and when you get your free time and buy yourself a teddy bear. And for the rest of your time in treatment, I want you to carry that teddy bear with you 24/7. And I was like, I'm a Navy SEAL. I don't do teddy bears. And she said, just a suggestion. So I went, fuck. And I went down to Walmart and I got myself this little black teddy bear and I put a skull and crossbone armband on him so you look kind of tough. Yeah. And for the rest of the time in treatment, I carried it, not understanding how this was helping me, but I was so willing to do whatever they said. Yeah, I had 100% buy-in. I was like, I can't do this. All my best decisions got me here. I need help getting out. It was a 12-step program based. I got myself a sponsor, did the whole 12-step thing. About a year after getting out of rehab, I had gone through the whole 12 steps, and everything in my life had kind of shifted, a different perspective, different approach to things. To sum it up, before that point, I was fully the end will justify the means kind of guy. Like mission first, just get there at all costs. After going through my recovery journey, it was more, I was realizing that the journey will justify the ends. I mean, there's much more is said on how you do something than what you accomplish. And that was a huge watershed moment for me in my understanding because I mean, I believe that what made me special is I got shit done, If you were my friend and you called me saying you had a flat tire, I would ask you for the year, make, and model of your car. And on my way to you, I would fucking find your car out there in the world and steal someone's tire and bring it to you to save the day for you.
You are aware that cars come with spares, right?
Yeah, but you wouldn't be calling me if you didn't have a spare.
I'm just checking.
I know, but I'm saying,
I appreciate the headspace, but also behind door number 2 is the car with a full-size
and
spare.
that's what like a sponsor would throw at you, saying, hey, your friend just wants you to come help change his tire. That's really what he wants. He doesn't need this super over-the-top hero move. But I had to let all that go because of all the chaos I'm causing in the world,
Have you been clean since those 28 days?
15 years. 15 years, knock on wood.
Man, you have to be the statistical anomaly in that.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of studies out there. And my story, after getting out of recovery, I began working with guys. I call them sponsoring other guys.
Yeah.
I began really realizing I'm much more empathetic than I realized. I do kind of dig this connection of sitting down with someone and talking with them. And it made me think about my therapist, who I believe saved my ass by coming to work with a cup of coffee. That's all he had. When my entire training pipeline, I had kit bags and gurneys and M4s and all this shit to kind of come and save the day. He came to work with a cup of coffee, and I was like, that guy's a badass. So I went back to school and got my 2-year degree in social services, a little TCC. I was worried that I had fried all my brain cells, that I wouldn't work. I was kind of scared going back to school. But I passed. I actually got good grades.
Was there a difference in how you felt your brain operated before the, shall we say, accelerant that you were using occasionally?
I mean, I really was worried that I had, because I had really just pushed it, the RPMs, but I got straight A's that first 2 years. And then I continued in my 4-year degree in human services at Old Dominion University, stayed on for my master's, and got my counseling credentials, my CSAC. And 5 years in, I went back to that same treatment center, the Farley Center, and asked them for a job.
Wow.
And on the day, like on 5 years to the day, I said, 5 years ago today, you guys saved my life. Can I come back and work with you guys? And they hired me, and I worked there for many years, loved it. But in that time, I was becoming obsessed with the law enforcement, first responder, veteran community, and how their path looks different going through treatment, and they had different defenses, and they struggled with different things, and they were a lot harder to open up. And so it kind of prodded me to let's do some research and study. Let's go back to school. And I went after my PhD and I got my doctorate in counseling. And my dissertation was on what interventions work best with the veteran population, and just kind of delved into what does success look like. And, the studies that are out there are a number of them that look at people who try out 12-step recovery, and those numbers are really low. If you look at people who successfully complete all 12 steps, who engage in a program of recovery that lasts more than 12 months, that significantly boosts the outcome. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, any program, if you stick to it, the more time and energy you invest into it, the better success you're going to have. But it does take a level of someone having some buy-in, And they talk about the gift of desperation, that point in which you hit a spot where you're willing to stop doing it your way and just go 100% into a different way of life, And there's some good arguments out there that can be a DUI. It could be blowing up your family. It could be there's a chemical bottom you could hit with psychedelics, where you go and you have a shift in perspective and you realize that, oh my gosh, I've been looking at this totally different. So there's these different bottoms you can find where you shift your perspective and you realize what you've been doing, and you engage in a program of recovery to get out. Because even a psychedelic treatment involves some sort of therapy afterwards, where you have to engage in a program that lasts a period of time. So in all of that, in this journey into education at the doctorate level, I began to really look at 12-step recovery groups. And I did not know this. There were over 200 different 12-step fellowships out there.
Really?
I mean, most people know about...
Alcoholics Anonymous is probably the most recognizable.
There's AA and there's NA, AA came out in
Was it Narcotics Anonymous?
Yeah. AA was 1935, and in 1953, NA, Narcotics Anonymous, came out. And that was because AA was... Drug addicts were going to AA and having success so much that they started their own thing.
That checks out.
Yeah, they wanted to call it Addicts Anonymous, but it was taken AA.
Yeah, I'm not going to share an acronym.
Yeah.
When in that journey did it fall apart with your wife?
Ooh, good question. Because I came back from recovery and from the Farley Center and thinking that, okay, I quit. This is what you've always wanted. And it's a trap a lot of people fall into where they think that just because you stop, all the chaos stops. But, you take a drunken horse thief and you sober them up, what do you got?
A drunken horse thief that's sober.
That's right. You still have all these other, I'm still a manipulator. I'm still like all these other defects of character are still in full effect. And, my pattern with my wife at the time was that I'd get in trouble and she'd yell at me. And that was the power differential in the house. Well, I come back and I'm still up sober. This is the power differential that we're going to engage in still. And so there was a lot of still chaos in our house. And, we stuck it out in recovery for a number of years. She actually ended up engaging in a program of recovery herself. And so we've never really knew each other sober, really, in all other years. And so that relationship did not survive recovery. And we both loved our son deeply.
How's your relationship with him now?
Our son? My son? Yeah. Little Ronan, he came up to me almost 6 months ago and said, Dad, I think I want to be a frogman. And I know, Ronan, I love you, and you are in for. There are so many less painful jobs out there.
Truly, psychologically,
yes,
physically, emotionally.
Yes, I know, but he is he's doing it right. He's out there training. He has some good SEAL mentor program he's gone into, and he's out there swimming and running and that.
You guys are in a good spot, though.
We're in a good spot. I mean, and that's, gosh, you worry about it, because I had those early formative years. I was not the dad, and part of my amends to my son, amends to my kids. I'm actually remarried now with 5 kids. But part of my amends to the kids is because they don't want money. They might say they want money, but to make up for the past, you can't go back in time and give it to them. What they want is a kick-ass dad today. So my living amends to my kid is to be a kick-ass dad today. And every day I do that forward is part of the amends to them for what was done. And it's my living amends to my kid. But the second part of that is I believe this disease is genetic. I do. I think it follows lineages.
Yeah.
It's passed down. And I can see in all my kids that a little bit of addiction in their lives. And that should they get themselves jammed up, I am providing an example of the way out.
How do you talk to them about that potential genetic expression? Because sometimes educating them that exists can help as well. But you also, you don't want to scare them to death. I mean, how do you broach that topic with your kids?
First thing I do is I tell them, listen, it isn't that drugs and alcohol are bad. It's the opposite. They're fucking awesome. They are absolutely.
Right, this is a new parent-child
and I will tell them, yes, they'll blow your mind. They are too good. That's the problem. And, you have a propensity for addiction. And I tell them, here's my story. This is what happened to me. And I have a version of my story I share with them for every age cat. When they're really young and as they get older, I retell the story and I let them know what happened to me. Like just a warning to them. And I tell them, I can't stop you from using. In fact, I've actually introduced something I learned in the military between you and I to them in raising the kids that's worked very well. I call it amnesty. Like I will walk into my kid's room and I'll say, for the next 15 minutes, you have amnesty for whatever you'd like to share. And they know, they had to learn this over time, that whatever they tell me in that 15 minutes, they will not get in trouble for no matter what. Like it's a chance to kind of open it up. You would not believe how many things they want to tell you, like their adventures climbing the Target rooftop and sneaking out at night, or stealing a bottle of wine from 7-Eleven. All these little adventures they've been on.
I do this with my daughter, and at some point I go, I need you to stop.
Yes.
You're telling me too much. I don't want to know. Please continue to lie to me. No,
yes.
To me, I have always told my kids, if you lie to me, you're going to get in more trouble for lying than you are what it is you're lying about. Mm-hmm. And it's tough sometimes. All of my kids have opened up, and most of it has just been around, oh, yeah, because it's funny. You can set these conditions and standards where you can have these conversations. And, we'll be at dinner, and I forget, we're laughing about something, and my daughter will be like, Dad, you don't even know. When you thought all three of us were doing this is what we were actually doing. And I'm just sitting there. And I'm remarried as well. I was married for almost 20 years and have been remarried now for just over 3. And my wife is just sitting there like, oh, my God. It's her first marriage, no kids.
Oh, my God.
She grew up, I would call it, what would be the best way to describe the way? She had a lot of rules. Mm-hmm. She followed them.
Wow.
I had a lot of rules. I followed some.
Yes.
You know? But so my kids, once they get going, and I mean, we're sitting there laughing, and I'm to the point of crying about some of this stuff. But then the gym, I'm like, you guys need to stop.
Yeah, but you value the relationship.
To me, I always want them to be able to call me.
Yes.
Like, they need to be able to know that, like, if you need something or if something's going on, like, the first thing is, I'm coming. The second thing is we can talk about it way later or never at all if you don't want to.
Yep.
But we'll solve the problem first.
Yep. Yeah, you value the trust and the conversation more. Because my parents, God bless them, they were disciplinarians and they came down hard. And all that did was make me be sneakier. Like, okay, that was horrible. I don't ever want to get caught again, you know?
Is that how they were raised?
Yeah, I'm sure that's how they were raised. Yeah.
How did they
Catholic.
deal? Were they addicts as well?
Alcoholics, addicts, yeah.
How did they deal with that? Did they even acknowledge it?
My mom definitely gave my dad a bunch of shit about it, you know, and that caused a lot of grief, a lot of fights, you know, and all the kids are hiding while they're fighting, and that whole alcoholic household. But yeah, it's been, their parents were, and you know, it was a common thing to have, you know, the dads who are an alcoholic and the sons are alcoholic, and so yeah, it was pretty much in our family genetics from the get go.
It's rough.
Yeah,
to a degree. I mean, that's, I guess, a sense of unluckiness. I don't know what other term that would be. Genes are interesting. They don't have to express, but you definitely have the potential.
No, you're right. And so, you know, that all of that coming in, me learning about 12-step recovery and the 200 different groups, 12-step recovery groups out there. I mean, there's Gamblers Anonymous. There's Online Gamers Anonymous. There's entire treatment centers, like inpatient treatment centers for online gamers.
I believe it.
Yeah, there's Debtors Anonymous. There's
Debtors Anonymous? People
Anonymous.
addicted to being in debt?
Addicted to being in debt. There's under Earners Anonymous. People who habitually seek out employment less their worth. It's a self-worth issue.
Human beings are so messy.
Know. But every one of those groups use the same 12 steps.
Huh.
Which, you know,
who came up with the 12-step program?
Dr. Bob and Bill W. Came up with it back in 1935, and it's funny. I looked at when I in my PhD program, I really delved in and said, what's going on here? How can this work on such a variety of not just chemical addictions but behavioral addictions? You know,
and who was this guy who stumbled across this? Was this a hypothesis of his that ended up turning out really well? Was it accidental?
No, I mean, it started off. I forget what the name of the religious group that they were part of. They had to start off with 6 steps from there, and they added to them. And it was a lot of work went into it, but I don't think they realized like the embedded theory that they were actually installing. And then that's what I began to look at in my doctoral program, and I realized that, wait a minute, this is stuff we're not strangers to. Like steps 1, 2, and 3, you know, it's pretty much in line with stages of change. What a therapist looks like are, what is your readiness to change? Are you in a place to realize you have a problem? Are you in a place ready to do something about it? You know, that's what steps 1, 2, and 3 are. Steps 4 and 5 are narrative therapy. Like, you know, I lay out your entire life and let's discuss it. And I'll, you know, share part of my life, and we'll have this restoring take place. You know, and in that process, you begin to realize and have empathy for your own life. And you begin to have some buy-in, like this person I'm going to root for. That's when you kind of begin to like care for yourself and love yourself again. Steps, you know, 6, 7, 8, and 9, that's all cognitive behavioral therapy. That's when the change engine comes in. You begin to change how you're interacting with the world around you. And it's actually working. You're actually trying because you care about yourself again. So this is now you're rooting for yourself. And steps 9, 10, I mean, whoa, steps, hey, there's the 12 steps. Yeah, and steps 10,
Michael,
11, 12.
good job.
I know.
You did a pretty good job, Michael. I'm not looking over at you, but
Appreciate it.
Steps 10, 11, and 12, it's existential therapy. It's like, where are you in, how you connect with the world around you? What's your purpose? What's your place? And so if you take those 4 modalities, stages of change, narrative therapy, CBT, and existential, those are all common therapies that are in practice around the world that therapists are familiar with.
Interesting.
And so what I've done with that, and I call it the holistic change model, is I say, hey, if you're a therapist and you're working with someone in 12-step recovery, here's some insight of how you can work with them effectively. This is the process they're going through. Here's how you can interact with them. If you're someone who's hesitant to have some buy-in in a 12-step recovery program, take a look at the embedded theory found within, and no, it's not a bunch of hocus-pocus religious bullshit. There's some solid theory at work here. And if you're someone who's so averse to 12-step programming, you can look at the holistic change model and say, all right, I'd like to follow this direction, this formula, without engaging in all the 12-step recovery. And so another huge benefit of 12-step recovery groups is that they're available in every language on every continent. They're all free. And of those 200 different groups, you're going to find a group that you can participate in, that you can agree with, you can align with. So they're so readily available, even on the web now. It's not even a transportation issue for you to find one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you would say I'm a huge proponent once I found out, wow, this is how this is working. This is how this is reaching so many people. And I mean, there are SEAL groups out there. Like all SEALs, it's a 12-step recovery group. Just
I'm sure.
SEALs. Yeah. And so the ability to find camaraderie, which is important for you to stick to any program of recovery, exists. So the holistic change model is what I came up with to assist therapists, to get people on board. I did write a book, and I did start a company. And the company is Bishop and Dice Defense. And it was centered around...
Who's Bishop?
Bishop. Scott Bishop. Shout out to Scott out there.
Also, why'd you give him first billing?
Because actually we tried that out. We said, Dice and Bishop Defense did not sound near as cool as Bishop and Dice Defense. Try it out.
It's a coin toss for me. I could go with either.
You could go with either. Yeah. I know. I get it. He deserved. He's an awesome guy. He was he knew the industry. He was like a contract wizard. He's like the brains of the operation. I was been working with addicts, alcoholics for 10 years. I had the credentials to work with them. And what we wanted to do is get to veterans, law enforcement, first responders, the people who are averse to therapy, the people who don't want to talk, who say they don't need therapy. And what we set out to do to get to them, it's a bait and switch. We'll go into your police department and we'll provide you with all the cutting edge gear, all the training and tactics. We can plug you in with different vendors to get you set up, and we'll go out there and talk shop with you all fucking day for like a whole year. And on year 2, we'll bring in the mental health therapy.
Yeah, so you got to crack the door so you can get inside first.
Exactly.
That's not a bad approach.
Dude. And we're in 7 states now, Bishop and Dice Defense, and we were out there. Gosh, it's our nation's heroes, man. The guys who are out there who, the first thing they tell you when you're in part of one of those units is handle your shit.
Do you think they're still telling people that? So I left the teams in 2013. Mm-hmm. I did my last deployment in 2010. It was the vast majority of the year. And one thing I noticed, and again, this is looking back, and I guess I noticed it a little bit at the time, is that they were making a much greater emphasis on the family.
Yes.
Involving the family.
Yes.
They, coming off a deployment, they would put you through TLD, which is third location decompression, which was essentially a drinking stop. And I'm not sure 72 hours is enough time, but we're working inside the military model. It is what it is. Intent was probably in the right spot. Family counselors, counselors for children, counselors for spouses, and there was a lot more talk about destigmatizing going to see a mental health professional. And if that continued on that trajectory, man, I feel like it's a different foundation inside of the special operations.
They are definitely in a place where they're giving people another chance, and you can go away to treatment and you can come back again.
Yeah.
The barriers to doing that, and this has existed since back when we were in, is that if I raise my hand in any way to signal that I'm in trouble, I need help, you're going to take me off and not let me play. You're going to ground. You're going to bench me. And that exists not just in the SEAL teams. That exists in the fire department and law enforcement.
For sure.
And whether or not there's a clear path back, I don't know. But to even fathom that well, I have to stop drinking too. That's a big part of it. Like there's no path back where I can still drink and participate. So there's a lot of areas where just questions need to be answered. But to ask the questions would imply that I'm in trouble. So I'm going to remain quiet longer than I need to. And what we've been doing to help with this, and we're seeing a lot of positive results in, is these anonymous groups we set up where people can log in from different departments and just ask questions. You're talking to someone who's in the professional in the industry and answer questions like, what happens if I say this at my command? What happens if I ask for, like, what does that look like? When does the red flag popped up? Just letting them, am I in trouble even? This is what's happening. Should I be concerned? And those kind of basic questions is the beginning of, okay, I am in trouble, or I'm not in trouble yet, or I should be concerned. We're getting a lot of positive feedback, people willing to come in. And it could be just as simple as, someone's chief saying, hey, yo, Jimmy, go log into Dr. Dice's website and just talk. Yeah, and because they know I'm not affiliated, with anyone's command directly. I don't have to answer to anyone. I'm just a place where you can ask questions, and I'm a private entity. I'm not part of their system. Yeah. And so having that distance between them gives me the place where I don't have to tell anybody anything.
Do you have any level of mandatory reporting?
When these anonymous programs, when they're just coming in asking questions, they're not officially a patient, so I don't have any mandatory reporting. Okay. But I mean, if I feel that someone is in a place, I'm going to follow up. And I tell that. I said, if you come in my group and you let me know that if I some way think you're going to hurt yourself, know that I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm straightforward about that. So I let them know that I'm going to follow up with, I'm going to track you down.
Yeah, I get the unwillingness to want to stop playing the game, but I think you have to ask yourself, what's the Trident worth? What's your badge worth? What's it worth to you now, and what's it worth to you for the rest of your life? Because at some point, you got to give it back. Like, you get to keep the one you were issued, but the community is going to move on. You're not as important as they will try to make you feel like when you're a part of it. They will replace you with the next youngest heartbeat available. And if you did nothing to take care of yourself while you were in, all of that shit's coming with you when you go past it. So what is all this worth? I don't think I would have been able to. It's tough. I mean, again, I say this looking in the rearview mirror. I would not would have wanted to give up the job that we had. But what if it saves your life?
Well, it's just your identity, man.
Yeah, but what is that worth?
God, for so many, that's everything,
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think for me, it was a part of that phase of my life as well. I can't sit here hypocritically and say that I would have a perfect response to any of those answers either. But now, again, looking back, I mean, one thing that I think did help me throughout my entire career is I constantly would tell myself and verbalize it. This is what you do. This is not who you are.
Yeah, and that's really healthy. You're doing that, but that is something that on a much broader scale we don't see people doing.
Why do you think that is?
And it's weird that different groups have it like worse almost. I mean, a team guy, as you can imagine, it's a pretty firm part of its identity.
For sure.
For sure. But you know who I see it even to a greater extent in? Law enforcement. Picture
Personally,
this.
I think that's a harder job than what we did.
I believe, I 100% agree with you. I put it in these terms. You and I would take a deployment. We go out in country and we return home. Law enforcement is forever on deployment.
At their home.
Yeah, never not on deployment. They're forever in country.
It's constantly driving back intersections or wreck sites or shooting sites or recovery
mentally,
sites.
Here's my impression of law enforcement. Their dukes are up. I have my hands are up in a fighting stance right now, and their dukes are up. And no matter what you say to them, they're like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm good." And for them to lower their guard and open up, this is so uncomfortable. That takes a lot of trust and buy-in. Yeah. And so when we go in and we're working with law enforcement, we understand that this is a journey of to connect and trust is a long, complex one that we need to engage in. And it would take that full year to gain their trust. Yeah.
That makes sense. Do you think after 15 years being sober that the young man you were before is still in there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the reasons I keep that picture on my desk is to remind myself that life, that guy is still available to me. It's I have that option. If I want to go down that road, I know where it leads. Yeah. I mean,
God, it's
is.
tough. It's
It
tough
is.
to know that's still in there. Does it still tug at you from time to time?
I've gotten really good at playing the tape forward. Like, if there was a situation when, a bunch of guys here and we guys are handing out shots. I mean, I would like, those days. I mean, that tape to play it forward with, like, what would shots mean to me? I go, bam, bam, bam. I'd be thinking, we're going to get some blow tonight. And you and I going to go to Vegas. And
Somehow the night ends in Vegas.
Yes.
Michael is meeting a entertainer for the first time.
Yes, we're looking for wives number 3.
He's going to need a wig, though, if we're going down there. Yeah. Oh, they would probably have those. So
I
that
think
would
we'd
help.
go all the way. We'd bick it. We'd get them skinned.
Just the sides?
All the way down.
No,
All
just the
thing.
sides.
No, all 3 of us.
I'm in.
It's a cult.
I'm down. Let's
Beginning of a
go.
cult.
Yeah, I guarantee you're down because you have to look in the mirror with what's on top of your head right now. I'd be down to
Anything other than this.
Yeah, I'd be down to cut my head off if I was you. What do you? So the 22 a day, the suicide number, which I honestly don't know if there's a solution to, just because you'd have to solve suicide society-wide, which I don't think there's an answer to that, as horrible as it may be. Why do you think? What can be done, do you think, to reduce that in the community of people that we came from? Because statistically, man, it's off the charts.
No, and here's how conceptually how I think we're there. The military is a war machine. It's not a mental health machine. It's a war machine. It is. You go into boot camp. Boot camp is not a peaceful process. It's a violent process. It's like your introduction, almost like what bullying is like. And
It's not a bad description, actually.
I mean,
Yeah.
you are. It's a violent process becoming part of the military, and you are pretty much trained that every single problem could have a violent solution. That becomes part of your drop-down menu. A possible solution for this is this violent option. And there are other options on your drop-down menus, but violence is always one of them. Mm-hmm. So when you get out of the military, those drop-down menus continue with you, and if you're in an altercation on the street, it drops down and you have to say, no, I can't do that right now. If you're in an argument with your wife, you got to say, no, I can't do that right now. If you are feeling like the earth would be better off without you, a violent solution of suicide drops down, and you have to convince yourself that's not a solution right now. It's part of that constant drop-down menu. And if you're under the influence, it's harder to negotiate or figure out why that's not So we have to come to grips with we have different drop-down menus than the civilian sector, because we've had this process, this brainwashing called boot camp in the military. Mm. So I think if we look at that as, all right, there needs to be a de-bootcamping. There needs to be a more intense process to become a civilian again.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and that needs to happen. And also we need to...
I'm going to add to that.
Sure.
I don't think it should be under the purview of the military.
Ooh, I like it.
Because I agree with you. Mm-hmm. What does the military exist for? If you let's take it all the way back to brass tacks, it's to fight and win war.
Yep.
At the end of the day.
That's it.
It's a profession of arms. Boot camp is the reorientating yourself from a me-centric world to a we-centric world.
That's right. How to live and not fight in
and we spend
close proximity.
in the Navy, which taught us nothing about what we did in our career beyond that, though, 8 weeks doing that. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the shorter boot camps for the military. Uh-huh. I believe TAPS was a 7-day course of which I attended none of. But
really?
Don't worry, left with all the required signatures that I needed. Yeah. So, okay, 8 weeks to onboard, 1 week, let's call it 2 weeks to get out. That's already a skew. Because in that, you have everything you might have put into your backpack. I actually think this is the perfect role for NGOs and civilian organizations where it is their entire core competency. Because I'm sorry, I don't care how much money you give to the military in addition to their current budget, they are going to suck at offboarding people.
Yes, they are.
They're going to suck.
It's not part of their mission. It's not part of their mission.
I don't think they care.
Yeah.
The SEAL community, when you leave, will try to keep you until they realize you are steadfast in your decision. Then they will replace you. And I'm not saying they do that. I'm not saying that negatively and it's not spiteful. Their job is to fight and win wars and to train hard and to be ready to go solve problems that people can't find solutions for. I don't blame them for that. It pissed me off at the time, but I don't blame them for that. But that space of getting out, maybe it falls under the VA. I don't know. But there are so many 501c3, veteran-based, service-based organizations.
Yeah.
I think that's the sweet spot for this to happen. Now, that's like obviously a grandiose and painting sunsets.
You're right.
Right, which is way easier to say than do. But I do think it has to be a separate, distinct entity outside of the military if it's going to be successful.
I totally agree with you, man. And I think that is. I mean, they put so much effort into putting you in the military mindset.
That's what they do. Mm-hmm. You're lucky that you get 2 weeks for TAPS. I hope that you do whatever you do there.
Yeah.
TAPS. Couldn't tell you.
No, I mean, I did none of that. I was just trying to get out as fast as I can and just get on with my life. Yeah. But yeah, there needs to be a deprogramming, and there needs to be this attachment of the role addiction and mental health plays to suicide, how closely they're linked. Yeah. And oh gosh, that would chip away at this huge issue we have.
Yeah. I don't think we can ever get it to zero. I think the absolutist approach to that is a bad way to talk about it. A reductionist approach is way better. I think at least we could try to target it as close to zero as possible.
And, the being in the military is a sacrifice for many, many levels, and that is part of it, is that it's going to impact you in your life. You're not the same person anymore.
I would add to that first responder, law enforcement. Mm-hmm. You know who gets left out a lot of that conversation too is 911 dispatchers.
Gosh, and that role, I can't think of a more...
You're not getting a phone call where the ring, 911, they're like, listen, this party is amazing. We're having the best birthday party ever.
Right.
My daughter just got a pony.
Just chaos.
All the grandparents are in the best of health. No, none of those calls are happening.
Right.
Every single call is probably this existential, somebody's worst day, and you're on the phone trying to help them through that.
Trying to figure out what they're going through this crazy, loud, panic communication. It must be I can't imagine how frustrating it is to not have an idea.
I also wonder how much they know about the follow-up from those calls. I'd be curious if they ever get resolution on what happened.
Open-ended stories for them, one after the other.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they would have time. I don't know if a database exists. That is not a job I think there's enough money in the world for me to do.
We've had a few dispatchers roll through group therapy. We've had a number of firefighters, believe it or not, struggle with. They have just as many issues, but everyone loves a firefighter, and they don't think they have any problems.
Is their biggest issue that they just wanted to be cops?
No, they just wanted to be in calendars. Yeah.
Of which the SEAL community is not innocent.
No, I know.
Have you seen that calendar?
No. Is there a new calendar out? Are you in it?
No. Michael? God, I'm going to regret this. I won't look at you. Michael, can you please try to Google Navy SEAL calendar? I know some of the people who were in this.
Of course you do.
And I don't know if there is a particular year.
I bet you there's a 212.
There's not. I am praying. I'm not a religious man. I am praying that there aren't pictures of this on Google, but I bet there are going to be. Because I know most of the guys that were in this, let me just tell you, their skin was glistening. I feel like there was baby oil. I feel like they applied it to each other.
Oh, you know too much about this.
Well, it used to. So I did a platoon with one of the guys who showed up in this.
Right.
And let's just say he was confronted with said imagery relatively regularly. And not like, good job, buddy.
Oh.
So, I've seen this calendar. What have you found, Michael?
Just on images, not a whole lot.
Thankfully.
Speaking of shameless images, look at my screensaver.
I know, the coffee shop did
I know, that was my first
Our
introduction.
manager, Connor, did that. Honestly, I could care less, man. It's Michael, gray image. I like it.
Here we go.
Two
Which
over,
one?
to the right. To the right. Oh, yeah. It just says hot, maybe. Right, we got a beret on here, so this, I don't think is... I mean, we don't wear berets.
We don't wear berets, man. That's a little artistic. Yes.
2004. Yeah, that's up, Michael.
Up.
Yep. Son of a
my God.
bitch.
Look at.
Oh, it's only on Pinterest.
Thankfully. Yeah. We can go ahead and not go any deeper into this, Michael. People have the rest of their lives to satisfy this.
Yes.
I knew I could actually still. I mean, let's look at the air lats. Michael, do you know what air lats are? Second guy from the right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Keep total air lats. Okay, so we got an MP5 there, and we have some. It looks like M4s with Vietnam era carrying handles. Those are rubber weapons. There's a reason why those are out of focus. That's probably in Coronado. Son of a bitch.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that stance on the dude on the right. Just
Yep. So calendars, and then you have books. What's up with SEALs writing books?
you wrote one. What are you talking about?
You wrote one. What are you talking about?
I did, but I tell you what, I think I'd have to. I don't even have a galley copy. They gave me 6 galley copies, of which I just gave away. I think the first sentence is, "This isn't a book of war stories." There's not a single war story in the book.
That's exactly what mine started. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. But here's the thing. I believe people can do what they want to with their experiences. If somebody wants to write a book of war stories about their experience, absolutely, more power to you. I have no issue with it unless they start having a flirtatious relationship with the truth.
Gotcha. Yeah. No.
As long as they earned it. It's their right to talk about it. The community writ large, and obviously I can't speak for the community, but doesn't seem to be a fan, and I'm okay with that too.
Oh, that's how it should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. When I wrote my book, it was like from the very beginning, this is not your shoot 'em up, bang, bang, Navy SEAL war combat stories. This is about someone blowing their life up. This is literally like what someone who is a high performer and what addiction can do.
You became a high-performing addict.
I know. Yeah.
First off, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm going to win addiction. That's what's dangerous about our community.
It is.
There's not a lot of people who live in the gray. It is cannonball into the pool, or I don't like swimming.
Yeah, exactly. Turn it all the way on.
Yeah.
Or I don't do that. Yeah.
When'd your book come out?
Let's see. It's on pre-order right now on Amazon. You can go ahead and find it now. Hope to drop the hard copy online the first of the year. And so...
What was your writing process?
Oh, I know. First off,
I ask every author
off.
this because I'm fascinated.
My hat's off to anyone who's written a book because it was not easy for me at all. Did not come. I'm not a writer.
Did you try to do it sequentially in a narrative form, or would you remember something and try to carve that out and then maybe put the limbs on the tree as you went?
My first approach to it was making a timeline because I wanted this to be kind of memoir. I went all the way back in childhood, tried to look for, evidence of addiction in my childhood and kind of follow that story arc. And then in that, where did recovery look like? This part of my life was when I was in denial. This part of life was when, and kind of at the end of each chapter, I let a little bit about reflecting back if this is what I should have realized I was doing, but I didn't. So I start out with a timeline, this huge master timeline. And then I overlaid the recovery aspects of it. And then I just tried to tell the story. And that's when all the writer's block and started not coming out. So what I did was then, all right, well, I'm pretty good at public speaking. I do a lot of public speaking requests. I do safety stand downs. I do all this stuff. So I just labeled each one of my stories. I think there was 83 different parts of my stories of my life. And I would just record myself telling a story. And I'd get up on a Zoom, just and then I would take that, the transcription of that, and I would just I would write it out how I would type because we don't talk how we type.
Yeah,
and so.
But you could carve away at that. Yeah. So you'd start with a boulder of granite and you're chipping away at that.
Exactly. And this started putting that. So 83 videos I made of my life and then started piecing them together and getting this book out. Some of the I want to say the issues were that when you go to the publisher, they're so many times they're that's a war crime. You cannot write that. Or they would say that that the statute of limitations is not up on that. We can't. And they're over and over and over again, that is illegal. And I'm like, dude, my whole life was illegal. I was not a good guy.
Yeah.
And when you read my book, you'll find yourself not rooting for me. I'm sharing the dark side of my thought process. And I was someone who would cut corners. I was someone who's going to figure it out at all costs. And so you're not really rooting for this guy. Until you blow up his life and then recover, you're oh, he's gonna fucking maybe do it. Yeah. So it's not a oh yeah book until the end, but I carved it out that way. What I did do to try to preserve the story arc is I started posting these videos on YouTube. as I went through, and I do a little blurb. You know, I wanted my audience to kind of like follow along, and so I would post the videos as I went on, so that the real story, regardless of what the publisher cuts out, the real story is going to get out there. You know? Yeah, the story arc.
The publishing part of it, going through, I'm assuming you did the same editorial reviews, the legal reviews.
Yes. Gosh.
Well, I'm very glad that it went through some editorial reviews because I found out I'm an idiot when it comes to grammar.
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Thankfully, there are people out there with a vast mastery of the English language, which I do not possess. And I'm really glad the first draft will not see the light of day. Because there's some semicolons in good spots now, and commas, and single words versus plural.
What was your process? How did you get through that?
I found writing to be very easy. The first thing I ever did.
I found that I was a super genius.
No, I'm not a super genius. The book that I wrote, I did not want to write a book. I actually got tricked into it by my buddy Mike Glover, who we were going to write a combined book. He was going to write. We were going to look at some topics and discuss it from different angles. And we would identify who was talking by, whether it be the font or italicize it, whatever it is. So we had to write, a test chapter. And when it came to bringing them together to pitch it, only one of us had written some test stuff. I pitched it. But the very first thing I ever did that I'll call consumer facing outside of the military is I started a blog. I was not a good student in high school, but I always enjoyed English class. And I'm not claiming that I'm a good writer by any stretch, but I enjoyed writing the blog. It was called Confessions of an Idiot, aptly titled. It's still up, but I found podcasting a couple years after that, and this medium is way faster for me than sitting down and typing, because I will usually type and then reduce from what I wrote to try to find efficiency in words. That takes me a lot of passes and a lot of times.
Right.
Here I can just sit down and talk. So I had an outline of what it is that I wanted to write, and I've been trying to think of the best way I can describe what the book will be, because it comes out in April, and I know there'll be like a podcast tour associated with it. I know people will say, well, what is the book about, and what are you hoping to get out of it? And I realized it kind of goes back to what I realized when I was a BUD/S instructor. I liked teaching. And I look at our old job, and a lot of people, I have realized, view it as unattainable, which statistically, they're correct. But if all you have at the end of that are stories that can entertain people, what does that mean about your experience? Because I think what we learned, the things that we were taught, the things that they, under a lot of pressure, helped us navigate through. And for a lot of people, they become really key principles in their life. I think that has utility beyond military service. But almost nobody gets to experience that. So it's my best attempt to take the experiences that people think are unattainable and apply it to everyday life.
There we go.
So that's the best explanation I have.
No, it's really
through the lens of largely, honestly, my own mistakes.
It's yes, and it's funny experience. Sharing your own experience, if you can just stick to that, how freaking powerful that is.
Yeah.
There was the process of sharing your story, and it sounds like a lot of what you're sharing is part of your story. I remember seeing an interview with Steven Spielberg, and he said this, and it stuck with me ever since. And I teach at ODU, so I use this a lot. Is that if you want to, you can argue statistics and facts all day long, and you won't get anywhere in terms of changing someone's perspective. You share a story, and you will have a decent chance of changing someone's perspective because they can see something in a different light.
Yeah, and if you look at most of the arguing that happens online, it's through the former versus the latter.
Yeah.
They want to hit you on the head with what they consider to be the truth or statistics, and then the other person does the same thing. And it's
you see a good movie, and it shifts your perspective on a different event, and you're like, oh, I did not realize that. And you find yourself moving more in terms of your perspective. When you share in someone's story, you get this look under the hood of what's really going on. Yeah, it's a crazy experience, and just being honest about what happened to me, even though it's much of what I talk about in my story it's not stuff why were you sharing that kind of stuff, It's because that's what happened, and that's what shaped me. And I think there's a lot of people out there who've done a lot of stuff that they're just ashamed of, or they can't believe they did it. And, we all have those skeletons in our closet,
Yeah, I'm sure there's people out there who would claim the opposite of that, but I think they probably are just liars. You know?
Yeah.
People are messy. They're imperfect.
They are.
I look back, you opened with, I'm a different person than I was in Buds. Like, I hope so, man. I mean, I don't even recognize myself or the person I was or how much I thought I knew or the way I was like, God, the interesting thing too is even if I was able to go back in time,
Right.
I wouldn't listen to myself.
I wasn't
even a person that was formed enough to understand what I would tell myself now. So that now I wish I could just go back and tell myself to buy Bitcoin, because that would probably solve a lot of problems.
A lot of your problems now. Yes. Oh, I would not. Like, who the fuck are you, old man? Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I wasn't even at a place, and because I've heard a lot of people talk, well, this is the book that I would want my younger self to write. And I thought about that, and I realized I might have read it, but I wasn't ready. And I needed to make some of those mistakes. And I actually, as weird as this is to say, is I want people to make mistakes. Because, I hate to tell you, that's where the growth comes from.
The pain.
I don't want it to destroy your life.
Right.
But
That's
maybe
true.
take you right up to the edge. What you think the edge is.
Hard
And
lessons learned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, it has a toll on those around them. It destroys a lot of families, a lot of lives. Yeah.
How did your current wife,
I know.
did you hit her with it all at once over a first date? How did we
I
do
know,
this?
I know.
Is this a rip the Band-Aid off type thing?
Let me just share the context here. I was, going back to school. I was on pursuit of my master's degree at Old Dominion University, and there was this professor there who was just amazing. I mean, she was smart, she was passionate, and I was sitting in the front row going, holy shit. She had her doctorate. I put her on this pedestal, and I was sitting there going, wow. I got an A in that class. I did all the extra credit, and like the following summer, she asked if I wanted to co-present on something. I guess she liked one of my papers I wrote. And I said, sure. And I remember, like, wow, a year after that, like, asking her out, and ended up, dating and marrying my teacher. And
Yeah, but in what part of that did you say, by the way?
on that convention we were presenting, she asked about, are you going to order something? I said, no, I don't drink. And at that point, I had like 2.5 years of recovery, or 3 years of recovery. And she was like, what? 3 years? And I talked about my whole giant crash, burn, blowing up my life, and she was like, whoa, blown away. And to share a little bit of her story, she dated me for several years, and in that time, I mean, I thought she was a normie. I thought she just could handle her wine. And a couple of years during our dating, she really became aware that, wow, I'm not feeling things the same as other people. I'm not living life at like full strength. My dad passed, and I barely cried. Those little things. And so she found her own road of recovery in there. Yeah. So we both ended up in recovery, and so now we have 5 kids now. And I'm a shout out to Vika, Noah, Ruby, Luke, and Ronan. You guys rock. But growing up in a household with 2 parents in recovery, that's a lot of recovery lingo they pick up, and a lot of looking at the world differently, a lot of processing, and I think it's a huge gift you can give your kids. It's that this idea that you can freaking kick ass at life and have a blast, and not do it with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
There's one particular canoe trip I take them on every year. Every year, third week of February. We take him out into the Great Dismal Swamp, and it's just this huge swamp. Some years we're breaking ice with the canoes. You're paddling upstream. We camp out on this island, and it's about 20 guys, and we're all in recovery, and we just do it religiously. It's always kicking the nuts. It's always miserable. It's just, you get out there, and you have like a cup of coffee, and it's so wonderful because it's so miserable, and you're just... And everyone's laughing for no fucking reason, and just dick and fart jokes. And it is just the kids, my 3 boys, they don't miss it for anything. They can't believe these guys are having so much fun. And granted, I'll take them out a day early, and we'll set up booby traps to try to catch everyone, like flash crashes and whistlers, and just just trying to make it extra adventurous. But it's just going out there and just freaking being crazy, creative, and they love it. They love the idea of that these guys somehow connect, and it's funny how that gallows humor freaking works.
Yeah. There's something to that for sure.
Yeah. And they get a little taste of that. And those are all those gifts you can give your kids that tend to live on. Yeah, I love that shit.
As a counselor, somebody's been doing this for a long time. Do you have, I'm sure there are success cases in failure cases, maybe not the correct terminology.
No, relapses.
Yeah. Do you have any, I mean, obviously don't give any specifics, but are there people that stick out that kind of just haunt you that you dealt with and it just, for whatever reason, couldn't click?
Oh, gosh, it's a great question. And it's a powerful question because there are, there are like amazing success stories and there are horrible, downward spiral stories that you're just like, wow. And the thing is, for someone to enter into recovery to get it, there's got to be this nexus of they got to be in a place where they can receive it. Like they have to be open to recovery, and they have to be access to recovery. They're a place where they can go to meetings, get a therapist. There has to be this nexus of those two things happening. So it all becomes this big timing thing, And where I intersect with them, it's almost like. If I'm lucky enough to intersect when they're at that point where those things cross, they can have a positive outcome. And if it's not, then it's going to be a negative outcome. So it's not like I'm not claiming the wins. It's just like, wow, I happen to be in their life at the right time. Yeah. And I can't take credit for the losses either because, it didn't work out. Everyone's story is different. But yeah, I mean, someone asked me once, like, you used to be a Navy SEAL and now you're a therapist. Aren't you bored? And my answer is like, you have a therapist is a lifestyle, is a job that's chaos adjacent. Like, I mean, I live alongside this population of these stories that go way beyond your wildest action thriller out there. I mean, just the situations people get themselves in, the crazy plot twists. I mean, the lives of an addict and alcoholic are not boring. They are intense and dramatic and oh my gosh. The guy who has going to court for DUI on the way to the court gets a DUI. This is the second time that's happened. That stuff is happening out there. Those are this chaotic lifestyle are full of those types of stories. Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of suffering in those stories too.
There's a lot.
How is a counselor, just in general, how do counselors create a barrier, or maybe they don't and this is impossible, that they don't end up carrying some of that from the people that they're working with?
They do. I mean, I'm not immune to that. There are, for say a therapist who's also in recovery themselves, actually have a higher relapse rate than the general population.
Therapists in recovery themselves have okay.
Yeah.
Is that because of what they are on the receiving end of helping?
Because they kind of equate that I'm doing all this work with other people's recovery. I'm not working on my own recovery. They don't. Their own self-care.
Investing. They're externally investing.
Yeah, and they think that counts as working on them. And so with that
they
in
need
mind,
a martini.
That's right. They need a wine. Yeah, they got it.
It's just one.
Just one. Like, who the fuck wants one? No,
martinis are disgusting.
Having your own therapist becomes super important. Also, being in recovery, having a sponsor, that's a huge support that people don't realize. Yeah. Let me for a second just kind of talk about a sponsor. Imagine someone that knows every single secret in your life, knows your entire life story, is especially attuned to your negative defenses. You're really attuned to what you react to, knows what triggers you have, is just up to date in real time with all your issues, who you have access to 24/7. that is a resource that you can't even buy, who's doing it for free, by the way. That is just a tremendous resource to have on tap. So having a sponsor is a big deal. For me, my spouse is also works in the counseling realm, is also in recovery.
I've heard you shouldn't counsel your spouse.
That's a good call. You should not counsel your spouse, but you should communicate. However, you should communicate well with your spouse, but no, not counseling. Yeah.
That would be rough. Two counselors, you're like, wait a minute. Are you using counseling shit on me? Stop using counseling shit.
We both went to marriage counseling before.
Okay.
And so it's like two therapists going to a therapist, and we're all in the same room. I know.
That's a cycle of billing that's hard to understand.
Oh, yes. And B, like, I know what technique she's trying to use on me right now. And then I'm going to counter with this.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. The behind the curtain, you're like, oh, I know how this shit works. I'm going to get ahead of the game.
Oh, my gosh. She's playing good cop, bad cop. Yeah. Oh, shit.
Would you go back and change your life if you could? Let me caveat this. If you change your life, there's a risk that you don't have what you have now.
Ooh, good question. Powerful question. There's a term in recovery called a grateful alcoholic, meaning that you're grateful that you are an alcoholic, which is a powerful statement because it comes with all the chaos that my life brought to get to this point. No, my life right now, I have this huge life map tattooed on my leg. It has these GPS waypoints on my life change course. In the center of the map, there's this huge key.
What datum did you use?
What datum did I use?
Did you use WGS 84?
I did.
Okay.
I did for the Latin
8
long.
or 10-digit grid?
Oh my God.
You went lat long?
It did Latin long, yeah.
Nobody can fucking read lat long.
But it looks good in a tattoo.
Unbelievable.
I know.
Unbelievable.
You will not find the treasure hidden.
No, I'd have to go onto ChatGPT and ask it to convert.
But there's a huge key tattooed over the last, and on the key is this word gratitude. That was the key to me being released from addiction, the bonds of addiction. I need to be grateful for my life. And that means being grateful for all the fucked up shit that happened. When I was a therapist at that new treatment center, when I went back to work there, Dre Summers, my therapist, still worked there, and he took me under his wing. After about a year, he went on vacation. He asked me to cover his group. I'm sitting in his therapist chair with his clipboard and his pen, and in walks this addict who sits down in the same chair that I was sitting in 5 years earlier. And he's looking out the same window that I was staring at. And I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm realizing in that moment that everything in my life had to happen exactly the way it had to happen for me to end up in this chair for this guy there. Yep. And I was trying so hard not to break down and cry. I was like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is
that would be an awkward therapy session.
That would be. The therapist is crying as you sit
just
down.
A complete mess. You're like, am I in the wrong room here?
Oh my God. And I knew then that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. It had to be this way. So no, I would not change anything, man. My life had to unfold in its horrible, painful fashion for me to get here.
What do you want to do the rest of your life?
My tagline on my email is, how can I be the greatest amount of good for the most amount of people? What are the force multipliers out there? One of the reasons I'm getting this book out there, and to be honest, this book is much like my company, where it's a bait and switch. It looks like a cool, fun read that's going to be enjoyable, but it has a recovery hook into it. The same thing with my company. I'm going to get out there, talk shop, we're going to have fun, but there's mental health sides coming.
Yeah.
I'm looking for those force multipliers. There are people out there that I recognize when I work with them that you would be an effing awesome therapist. You have a way of connecting. You can get out there. And the therapists, military, law, first responders who in their recovery find their way into these roles can 10x this recovery. If I can get out there and I can find 10 more of me, boom, boom, boom. Now we're helping 1,000 people. Now they're helping 10,000 people. Now they're helping that's what we need to do, is get those force multipliers out there. So me moving forward, whether through this book, through my company, I'm looking for those 10Xers. How can we continue to grow this exponentially? Because there's people who, every day we don't do this are dying. Every day we don't do this, their families are blowing up. Every day we don't do this, more people are getting further down that path of self-destruction. So yeah, when I leave here today, I'm looking for the next stop. How can we level up?
It's awesome, man. Would you have ever imagined in your wildest dreams, as of course you were sitting on your couch on a water tower with a barbecue, that this is where your life would lead you?
Dude.
So in that moment there, if you had been given a notebook and an unlimited amount of time, would you have ever written this down as a fathomable?
Oh my gosh. The very first time I allowed myself to think about, maybe I want to be a therapist, I could barely say it out loud. You know, I mean, to be working in the social services was so 180 degrees out of what I thought I wanted in life. Yeah, there's no way. And I think that's something that letting go of what you think you know about your life, you know, that's really what a lot of me has been like, okay, let go of what I think I know. This kind of control of it must be this way caused so much anguish and strife and led to so much of me trying to bury my feelings in addiction. Yeah. So yeah, that's been part of that growth, is letting go of what I think I know.
Yeah, it's awesome. The book. So, who'd you go with for a publisher?
For a publisher, I went with, what name is it? It is, my brain. Peaceful Profits.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
The best avenue for people to pre-order?
Go to Amazon.com.
Okay. And
Yep.
when does it come out? What are you targeting?
Hold on a second. Amazon.com.
Yep.
And if you go to drdicebook.com, you get on our mailing list with all our behind the scenes footage, you know, extra content. And right now, I think it's $5.99 and for the pre-order, and it's boom. Yeah.
What do you want to leave people with? We've been at it for like 2.5 hours.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. What I want to leave you with, a couple things. You know, like I said, I shout out to my family. I love them. My wife is a freaking superhero. I'm so grateful to have her out there. So some gratitude sending her way. What I want you to do is, you know, besides looking at the book, besides checking out the social media stuff, if you're out there and you're hurting, gosh, if I can transfer this to you, the ability, it's like, when I allow you to help me, that's like a huge honor I'm allowing someone to do. Like, if you ask me for help, I take that as a huge honor. Like, you trust me enough to ask for help. You know, it's almost like you're kind of being selfish by not allowing others to help you. You know, that ability to give that purpose to someone, to open the door, to say, hey, can I talk to you about something? Those little, that micro step, that little bit, just realize that that's a huge honor you're giving someone, the ability to ask, to be there for someone for you.
I would add one thing to that, too.
Sure.
Every time I've done that, every single time, I've been met with nothing but people willing to help as much as possible. And humans are great at a lot of things, but reading minds isn't one of them.
Yeah.
I have never had somebody say no.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is truly, it's a respect and an honor thing. There's so much tied up in, and it's almost if you don't do that, the person is left forever like, dude, why didn't you ask me? You know, like,
Yep.
I was there, man. Why
I have a
didn't you ask
list of friends that I could apply that directly to.
Yeah, and it goes both ways, you know. I know our lives have done this little parallel thing, and they've intersected these two times in a pretty crazy way. But if they continue of us having some sort of relationship, you know, that ability to just talk about stuff back and forth,
Yeah.
those are level up in the relationship. Those are serious level up. We could be best of friends, but it takes it to another level when I ask for some kind of help or assistance.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So to my, you know, our party message out there is that small little conversation, that one little, hey, can I ask you something? As simple as that. Hey, you got a minute? Or just that, I don't think I'm okay.
It's a tough one for guys.
It is.
Specifically.
It is, you know. But that is the lead in, and it can go as deep as you're comfortable with. But just the idea that you have broken the ice and began that, gosh, that's the beginning of, you know, getting to a solution instead of living in the problem.
I agree. Do you do the socials? People can get a hold of you on social media?
Yeah, pretty much. I made it easy for you. Go to any social platform. Go Dr. Dice. I'll pop right up. You go to Dr. Dice. Google me. Dr. Tony Dice. Dr. Dice. Pop all the videos. Shit pops up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Dude,
right on, man.
I know. It's definitely. I thank you so much for having us out here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Man, the platform. Many of the guests you have are along the same thread. I'm super stoked. Those populations tend to really love these platforms, and the more we get people talking about how common this stuff is, more we can normalize. Addiction is freaking widespread, and we're so good at, like, I'll stop drinking, but I'll go to the gym 3 times a week.
I was going to say, you see people switch one for the other, and it's 100% possible to be addicted to something you can consider healthy.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll augur your life in your attempt to be a competitive exerciser.
Yes, I know. And you spend how much? $1,000 a month on supplements? You know,
Yeah.
You went from Coke to
Expensive pee.
Yes. Oh, you're so right. Oh my God.
Well, thank you for these pictures, man. Honestly, I cannot. God. Why are we smiling? Why are we smiling? This picture is from Hell Week.
It is from Hell Week, man.
There is,
Hoo-yah.
God, there's nothing in that. Yeah.
Oh.
God, blast from the past. Michael, one day you could be in this picture, but you would have quit before Hell Week.
Yeah,
If I'm being honest and objective.
Dude,
Yeah,
there's a
surprise me.
scary fear in the air of, like, what the hell's about to happen.
I was terrified the entire way through training because I didn't know, and I didn't know if I was good enough.
Yeah. 180 people who swear they're going to die before they quit.
18 originals that last day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the honor man's in jail.
Is it? Wow.
You didn't hear this story?
No.
The honor man of class 212 is a man named Ben Seifert.
Wait a minute.
Him and his wife.
I know him. He called me when he was on the lam. I got interviewed by the
What?
FBI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he have to say?
He called me 2 times. He called me the first time he called me before all that stuff went down.
Okay.
Before he called,
Did he
called me.
say, I feel like I might want to cut people up?
Oh my gosh. Yes, we were having a discussion about the best way to dispose of a body.
Okay.
And
good.
I told him that
This is a joke, everybody in law enforcement.
I was like, you cut them up and you put the body
Yeah.
parts in different, dumpsters and around. Basically, very similar to what he ended up doing. Dude, he calls me later on and he asks me if I would be willing to help him on a ransom money drop. And I was like, I said, stop. Like, he wanted me to meet, like, off the pier in scuba gear. I said, stop. I said, listen, Seifert, they know there's nothing they will look for you harder than ransom. Please don't call me again. I don't know what this is about. I don't want to be part of this. But I mean, I remember when he met his girlfriend, I was with him at the bar, at the brass bell.
Yeah.
And I remember that him hooking up, and he was a ball of chaos. Yeah, I was there with him.
So let me ask you this, because my wife and I were having this conversation because she is fascinated by him. I have some fleeting memories. I remember he was a little touched, but we're all a little bit touched.
We'd be dancing on the dance floor, and his gun would fall out on the dance floor.
Yeah, but that happens to the FBI too. So I mean, what are you going to do? I was talking with my wife, and I was saying to her, how do you think this happens? Because either they were both twisted, or one of them was twisted and converted the other. But are you at home one night and you say, listen, honey, I don't know how to really bring this up to you, but I have some things that I'm interested in that I have a hard time talking
I
about.
really like Hooters paraphernalia.
Yeah. I really, really want to kill people and cut them up. And I was just curious if you might be into that. And does she go, why?
Wow.
So, like, it is possible that 2 completely insane people found each other. Mm-hmm. But how do you have that conversation? How does the initial pickleball go across the net? How does this happen?
How does it start?
Yes.
Dude, I bet you with those 2, it started that very first night.
Shut up.
No. I mean, she came in with a different guy than him.
And what
that
do you
night.
think the first, she's like, your skin smells good. I'd like to wear it or something.
Yeah, it was, I mean, Seifert saw her and he was like, I approached her in front of him and there was an attraction and they were
instantly like, we're going to get married. And
I think they were both crazy then.
Yeah. I mean, they're just, it was full on natural born killer kind of Mickey and Mallory Knox style.
He has mandatory parole in like 2 years.
Really?
I'm going to try to get him on the show.
Dude, get him on the show. I'd like to come on the show and talk to him, say hi to you. But yeah.
I mean, there's only one question. And it's like, hey, man, what the fuck?
Dude, you can get him on the show, man. Oh,
You've already been tried, convicted, and spent your time. There's no need to hide anything behind the curtain. Let's go.
Oh, that would be a good one. Oh, I hope you do it. Please do it.
I don't think he will probably want to, but I will make an attempt at it.
Oh, I think there's definitely a book there. He's got to write a book.
I feel like anything he writes or makes or profits from is likely going to be directed elsewhere. Probably is going to go to the families, as it should.
As it should. That would be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he needs to answer some questions for us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe in the end they tried to blame each other. So
Yeah,
it was
they
like,
did.
Yeah.
It went bad, sideways. Yeah.
That divorce didn't even survive being in separate prisons. I mean, who could have seen that coming?
That speaks to our community where we both know someone like that personally. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
I try to tell people, words don't always mean what you think they do. Mm-hmm. Honor man, honor-ish, And again, they picked that on the class based off who had failed the least amount of evolutions.
Yeah. He was a hard charger, man. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he physically didn't fail any evolutions in the class. That's why he got the honor man.
Wow.
It was. I remember them having the discussion about it. It was nothing beyond that, and whatever.
Yeah, I remember he kind of lived life like a video game. Yeah, when we would go out and he would just be running from the cops. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's that. All right.
All right.
Cool. All right. Thanks, man.
Bye.